theme song or something.
Whoa.
Somebody's got feedback.
It's always wrong.
No, it's right.
Recording in progress.
Excuse us.
Recording stopped.
Oh, your speakers.
It might be Rich. It might be.
No IT in here.
A little bit. Hello?
It might be me.
Maybe her. Could be that. So I'm on mute and just turn down the volume.
Testing.
Is your microphone off? Is that it? Nope.
One day we'll get this.
My audio is off.
Every month it's something new.
So the option is, we'll do this.
Did we have this problem before with the echoing?
Yeah.
We have in the past, yeah.
That
It's
sounds
usually
a
a
little bit better.
I just had.
Ron, can you hear us okay?
What did you?
I just turned the volume up.
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Phil, can you hear us?
Devoid of echo.
I think it was me, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I think
I
there's
can.
no,
I can hear you without the echo.
okay, and there's no more echo in the room, so I think we're ready to go. All right.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to the Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, August 30th, 2022. In accordance with the provision of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, notice was given that the Planning Board will be meeting on Tuesday, August 30th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Meeting Room 124, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Massachusetts. Alternate public access to this meeting was provided or is being provided via Zoom video. This application allows users to follow the link or call in on the meeting will be for future rebroadcast by Norfolk Community Television.
Anybody?
Yeah, we can hear you, Phil.
Yes, we can hear you, Phil.
Can you hear us?
Nope. Rich, you did re-hit that record button, right? Because I heard it stop.
Yeah, I am
Okay.
recording
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Is Phil muted?
So-
We'll finish this up and then we'll get Phil figured out there. Just wanted to do some introductions. So we'll start on my right. We have Melissa Mayer, our associate member, Gary Sullivan,
Chris Montfort.
Chris Montfort, myself, Chad Peck, John Waddleton, Eric Diamond, our town planner, Richard McCarthy, and our town administrative assistant, Bessie Fajol. And we do have, online, we do have our, we do a beta group, and I do see we have one other person in the audience. So we will begin, well, first let's figure out this technical issue with Phil. Phil, can you hear us or no?
I just sent him a chat.
Okay.
He looks like he's frozen there.
Can you tell if he's muted, Betsy?
He's not muted.
No, we were.
But
able to
maybe
hear
he's
him.
got a problem with his speakers or something.
It does say the recording is paused. Does that mean anything? Should
Yeah, that shouldn't
We
affect
can hear
them.
Phil.
Recording in progress.
Do I need to go through that again since it's
No.
not on the
No, no, no.
recording?
No, NCTV is recording it anyway.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Phil looks frozen there, just FYI.
Phil's frozen?
Yeah, doesn't he?
Yeah, that looks.
He's very
I think
stoic.
he's deep in thought.
Thinking about fly
So-
fishing.
It's a little,
So what? Something just popped up in the chat, Betsy. What was that?
Ron Lamar asked Phil, can you hear us? So
Okay.
maybe.
Because
Phil-
we are going to need Phil from Beta for this first
We
public
are,
hearing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he hasn't blinked. I think he's frozen.
He is very stoic, though.
I do, yeah. That was a good movie, Sandra Bullock and, what's his name? Remember, on the bus?
He looks a little
Keanu
like the
Reeves?
thinker.
Speed?
Yeah,
Speed.
Speed, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I thought it was good.
Oh, Yeah, oh, okay.
What about speed 2 on the boat? Was that good?
No.
Speed 3, the one on the plane.
Not for compare what's going on right now.
All right, so
I just texted.
He moved.
He's back.
Phil, can you hear us? Phil?
Phil? He's moving, so his video's not locked up anymore. Ron, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe we have Ron go through an introduction of what it is.
So, well, let's while Phil's working this out,
No, you can't hear us.
he cannot hear us.
Now we just hear him. He took his headphones off.
We can hear him.
We can hear Phil.
Can
But
you
he-
hear us, Phil?
I don't think so.
I think there's something wrong with the audio on his Zoom.
This is going to be awesome for likes on the YouTube page later.
Hear me?
We definitely gotta
Yes.
make a
Phil, is that you?
a Zoom blooper
Yes.
segment.
Oh,
There, we
you
can
go.
hear you. Can you hear us?
All right. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right, excellent. Let's,
Gotcha.
so let's get started with our public hearing at 7 PM, which is a little delayed, for 117 Main Street, Norfolk Fire Station Site Plan, Special Permit, Earth Removal Permit, and Stormwater Management Permit. And this was continued from July 12th, 2022. So we do not need to read this in, correct? Because we,
No, it's continued. We're good.
all right.
July 12th, 2022. So we do not need to read this.
Got a little backseat.
Who's it?
All right, so the board's going to recognize Kevin Champagne from the Fire Department Committee,
Fire Station Building.
Fire Station Building Committee. Thank you.
So, Kevin Champagne, Chair of the Fire Station Building Committee, and we have Ron Lamar of Doran Whittier on Zoom, who will, I don't know if, Ron, do you want to present something first, or are we just turning it over to discussions with Beta?
Sure. I mean, so what we have right now is what I have up, and I'll be happy to share it if questions come up, I guess. Is I have. Can you see it?
Yep,
Yes.
we can.
Oh.
All right. So just as a reminder to everybody, this is the site that we've been talking about. Obviously, this is the new fire station. That very light dashed in line is the existing. I don't think you can see it. But we've been through planning for one meeting. There was a peer review letter that came out, and we've responded to each one of those items. We are going for 7 waivers, if you will. Allowing the parking in the front of the structure, the building height increase from 40 to 46 feet, which is allowed at your discretion, allowing for the green belt conformance based on existing vegetation that's there, allowing a reduction in the number of parking spaces,
I can't either, right?
allowing for multiple types of curbs as requested by the town, and that has to do with the type of curbing, whether it's sloped, granite, or vertical. And then allow bioretention area installations without the post-construction monitoring wells, and allow the bioretention areas without a fence. So I guess I would leave it to Phil to just itemize which, and I can also share that obviously it was 8 pages long.
So
There were
just
lots of comments and responses.
Just out of curiosity, your document there is dated the 22nd, and Beta had a, that's the wrong piece, isn't it? That's the Fox Run video.
Theirs was the 29th.
There was,
We
was
have
the-
a,
so Beta's latest response was the most up to date.
Yes,
Okay. So,
Beta's was the 29th, so I can open,
so we should look at the 29th one.
all right, let me open up what Beta sent. There we go.
there it goes. Yep.
Oh, yep.
Okay, so one thing I noticed was on the list that you had, there was a different number of waivers than what's represented in betas. So was Phil working off of the same document that you were?
That's the only document we had sent in for responses.
Because Phil's has 7 and theirs had 8, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So can we look and see which one was missing between the two and just make sure it's a non-issue?
Sure. So we had,
Oh, it's 7 as well. Allow parking, allow increase, alt reduction.
So it's the same.
Well, okay.
Okay.
All right, that's fine.
We should have another waiver on there for detention basin being so close to the street. That requires
Yeah. There was the one about sidewalk. I mean, let's do it point by point, right?
so well, we did have a meeting prior to sending this in. So the sidewalk was addressed with Rich in the town, and the town said they didn't want it. And it wasn't a requirement for the sidewalk, it was just a recommendation. So we weren't seeking a waiver for a non-required recommendation. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm not making sense.
No, the waiver is for the basin setback to the public way, not the sidewalk. That's correct? That's what you're, yeah.
Okay.
The sidewalk is a requirement. You look at
Yeah,
Z4.
Technically, he did correct it. There are both waivers, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if the sidewalk's a requirement, they need a waiver for that.
they
Then.
need a waiver of it. But the DPW supports granting that waiver because it makes sense.
Okay.
That particular one.
But it needs to be listed
But
under
it needs to
waivers.
be
Yep.
listed, correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Setback,
just so we know, so this sidewalk here we're providing, there was a recommendation that the sidewalk be over here. Is that required?
along the frontage it is, yes.
Okay.
But
All right.
the consensus was it didn't make,
Okay.
Because it's not going to tie in.
to grant the
anything.
waiver, it's not tying into a sidewalk, so.
Right. So then,
Okay.
if we're going to grant a waiver, I mean, that's fine. And the DPW supports it.
Correct,
Okay. But it needs to be mentioned as a waiver.
yes.
Okay.
Do you want to go point by point? G1's fine.
Yeah. So
On Z1.
yeah, how about we just go down through? So G1 beta did not have any issues, or the issue. I'm sorry, the issue was resolved. Then we get to Z1. Issue resolved. Beta defers to the board on the reduction of the parking. So, I think, John, you had asked for the calculations on. Did you get that?
Yes. I think Rich has a copy. I got a copy.
You all do, yeah. You want to,
So it
Rich,
I don't
showed a
have control,
calculation of
but
56,
correct,
and the proposal is to reduce it to 30.
correct.
yes,
And,
yeah.
I don't know if you can read that.
I mean, my concern with that would be, this building does have conference rooms that are going to be used for the public, and at times, would 30 spots be enough?
Well, the concern is the building inspector was quite helpful as far as the committee goes. He assumed that every person driving to attend one of the
Trainings,
functions,
yeah.
training, would come 3 people in a car. So with 3 people carpooling in a car to come to this training, there was the 50-something required. I mean, I don't think in this world 3 people go in a car to go to anything. So basically, if one person went per vehicle for the training in their own car, that would bring it up to over 80. So I think the
I
parking,
mean, sorry to interrupt you. They
Yes, sir.
can't hear on Zoom at the moment, so I'm not sure what. What's going on here. See if we can get that sorted out, sorry.
So
Yeah, so basically, he was pretty liberal in saying that 3 folks to a car, and at that case, it would be 56. The only other, it's kind of important, because down at the police station, I don't think they had any parking waivers. Instructional facility, I don't know how many seats. Do have functions, they quiet parking, so the parking's,
Someone is hitting mute on theirs.
I don't know who that was.
Well, that's Ron's screen, isn't it?
Yeah. So Ron is requesting that we unmute Zoom. Something's muted.
Can you hear us now?
Yes. If
Okay.
that was Rich, I can hear you.
Okay. You
Okay.
guys are, everybody on Zoom okay?
Yep, we're here.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Great.
So we didn't hear anything that you said.
So we did.
Since
It was all the good stuff, too.
Ah, all right. Well, thanks.
So we were talking about parking, Z1.
Okay. Yeah.
John was talking about the calculation.
Yeah, so what I was talking about, Ron, is the building inspector, the zoning man,
Yeah.
required 53 or 6, I forget the number. It
Correct.
included, and you're looking for 30, it included in the building inspector's number, he made the assumption that when attending the training, 3 people coming for 3 seats would go in 1 car. And I think in today's world, you don't find probably anybody going 3 to a car to a training. So if the 56 stands with his assumption, which I'm happy to go by, it still gives a pretty big deficit. Half.
How many seats are there in that training room?
30.
30. So that plus 7, which would be max staff, which is the number that they gave us.
Do you
So
have
that's
the listing?
37.
The building inspector's listing, he has a breakdown of every
It is.
single
It's on the
aspect.
screen.
It's on
on
the
the
screen. I
screen.
know it's hard to see, but
Very, yeah, for me anyway. Page 1 has got the breakdown, Betsy, I think.
page 2 actually has, well, that's the
He
calculation
gives the
there.
detail on page 1 on the numbers. So that's how they come up with this format, which is pretty involved.
Do you want me to open it up so everybody can see it?
Oh, that would be
We
great.
have-
Yeah. They can't see it on Zoom.
Yeah,
Oh,
we've
okay.
got it up on our screen, we just can't display on Zoom.
It's okay.
So while you're bringing that up, I mean, I also agree with John. I think the number of parking spots are too small, but I think there could be an alternative solution here. I don't know if you've approached the church as using their parking lot for overflow.
I mean, that's mixed-use space already as it is. It's spots
Well, they
for
have
the
the right to
train.
use, don't they, Rich? They have the right to use an abutting property with parking, with consent. So it doesn't get more abutting than the church there with their spot right beside it. So if the church would acquiesce in permission for days of function to use parking, then that makes this work.
And we can get a letter to that effect, because I do know that the chief has spoken to the church and they're fine with it.
Okay. We have a comment from,
It does need to be,
Okay.
If the light's on, you're good.
yep. We have a comment from Aaron in the room.
Aaron Hunt, 266 Main, Fire Station Building Committee, Design Review Board. There's also the town parking lot across the street.
That doesn't count, though, in the zoning for allowable parking, I don't believe. Is that correct, Rich?
it's outside the,
It's outside of the
it's
zone.
outside the
Yeah,
distance.
I think in light of many conversations we've had on various boards around town in terms of efficient use of land downtown and decreasing use of cars going forward over time, you know, it's shared parking, right? We had many conversations about shared in the B1 zoning committees. I think planning for the maximum use of a small percentage of the fire station to be used, you know, to plan for that over time just adds to the paved impervious parking service of the lot, which again is something we try to limit here in town too. So feel like there might be a balance here that we could find.
Well, the quest is to go by zoning. I mean, that's the way it can use. Unfortunately, it doesn't come into our calculation because it's not part of zoning. So the theory goes out the window, and the written law is what gets written up in the decision. So that's why the church would be good, because the church is specifically allowed as an abutter to use their parking with their consent. So if the board had a letter from them, that would be in the decision that's written, knowing that you've qualified for the parking.
Yeah, so let me talk to the chief, because I know that he has spoken to the church, and he called saying that it was a great meeting and that they agreed overflow parking can take place in the church parking lot. And so we can forward you that letter, if that's okay.
Okay.
Or at the very least, a letter from the chief.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't see if he's on the call right now, but I don't
He's
think
not,
he
Ron.
is.
He's not. I mean, I personally would find that acceptable, but I'm just one of the board members here. I'd like to know.
I think as a matter of pragmatism, it makes the most sense to the points Aaron made about, what does future state Norfolk look like? It's clearly less parking spots.
Right.
That was one of the considerations of the B1 work, and there's the abutting property, and that, to John's
That's the
point,
law.
that
I mean,
that
it
fits
gets
the zoning law.
enhanced because I believe next door, guessing, has more than 20-something parking spots in that facility. So
Easily.
basically, if that was empty when there was a spot, if the number really is closer to 80 than to 50-something, then this abutting parking still makes it work.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You would want to have something from the church.
Yes. Yes.
So it becomes part of the permitting process.
Correct.
But it's not lost on us that, the commuter rail parking is literally across the street, and they can park and walk from there and just pay the fee for the commuter rail parking as well. Like,
It just
there's
doesn't-
options, it's just not within the little boundaries as John stated.
That doesn't satisfy the needs of this.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we don't know if this will return to normal, but that was space that was being offered up to commuters as well,
Right.
to using share space to deal with a, pre-COVID parking issue. So that's not really, there's a lot of more flux in that, of the old town hall property, in terms of it could be redeveloped. So there's a lot more in that piece to rely on for this project, for that piece.
Right.
So.
Okay.
So, yeah, Ron, maybe tomorrow we just talk to the chief about getting a letter from the church.
Sure,
Too.
that works.
Yep.
And this might be moot if we're using parking at the church, but I wonder if there's a mistake in the calculation here. He's got 9 sleeping rooms divided by 1.5. There's 14 spaces. I think that should be less.
Yeah, it should be,
6.
yeah.
So it'd be 8 less spaces.
In the instead of
in the
instead of the 56, it'd be.
We still don't have it on the property, so we still need the church.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'd be
Yeah,
50
and-
total.
Yeah, and then there's other, this is from the code enforcement officer, so we, because there is, also the comment about like the fitness room, the MDF server room and file storage and things like that, which are not really public spaces, so it's not as if someone can come park and go use the file storage room, so. But it's in there. I think the chief did the diligence of going next door and making sure they've got overflow parking available to them for that reason.
Okay. Yeah, I think a letter would satisfy that.
Okay.
All right, we comfortable, move on to, all right.
Z2. Looking for plans for the signs that are mentioned.
Right, so we had responded that the signs will be provided when we get the submittals from the contractor, and that the sign of the monument sign out front is gonna match exactly the existing sign that's there.
Match it from a look, feel, aesthetic, material perspective?
From a size perspective.
Okay.
And so it's gonna be a very similar monument sign, and it'll be essentially exactly the same size.
And it would be lit similarly as well?
We can light it if you'd like.
Well, that's the reason why we're looking for the plans for the signs, because there's a lot of questions that come up, especially when you're talking about this.
Okay. So we haven't designed them yet. I mean, the signs are not designed. I suspect there's going to be a lot of discussion. with
Phil,
the
you're looking
sign,
for
the
standard
lettering.
things like elevations,
Yeah.
materials, all that, right? Yeah. Okay.
That what we're looking for,
Phil's shaking
Phil?
his head. Yeah.
Yes, that's typically what's provided, yes.
Okay.
So we can have Niche provide those, right, Ron?
Yeah, we can talk to the building committee. We can draw something up. You're going to want the light fixture products and things like that as well? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Good. So we'll design the sign and get it off to you.
Perfect.
Not a problem.
Z3, Beta defers to the board for this information if it satisfies the requirement.
So basically, the question was, are there any dangerous, injurious, noxious, objectionable fire, explosion, radioactive, other hazard materials? Typically, this is if maybe a business is moving into town and you want to know exactly what's there. And the chief has confirmed that basically the new fire station is not going to house anything different than what the existing firehouse has that's been there for a while. And that's how we had responded to that during our pre-submission meeting.
And there isn't anything housed today that would touch any of those points then?
Yeah, are there any material safety guidelines within the fire department now for specific chemicals or?
We can get that from the chief. But I guess I would say that,
We just need to be made aware of it and
Right.
make sure it's not anything crazy.
Well, there should be an affirmation for the record.
Right,
that's all.
exactly.
I mean, the only thing I can really think of is, obviously, there's a decontamination space inside the station. There isn't one now, but there is one now, but it's not, doesn't work properly. So, and anything that comes, any liquid or waste that comes out of the decontamination room goes into the holding tight tank on the site that we're providing. And then other than that, I suspect that there's probably a small container of gasoline that they use for maybe a chainsaw. And then in addition to that, I wouldn't imagine there'd be any other kind of hazmat in the station. But we can certainly, again, just have the chief write up whatever they have stored there that might fall under this category, and we can definitely send that to the board.
That'd be great.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to Z4. So this just needs to be added to that waiver, that sidewalk extension.
Okay. Yep.
Z5, issue resolved. Z6, issue resolved.
Sorry.
Seven's resolved.
7's resolved. 8's resolved. ER1,
Earth
it
removal.
defers to board.
So the question here is that that you get a bond. And what we were trying to explain is that the entire project, because all the site work is included within the construction, it's all under a performance and payment bond. So there is an insurance company standing behind the project. So in effect, if the general contractor didn't finish any site work or in the street opening or anything like that, or any kind of removal of the requirements or construction, there is a performance and payment bond associated with the project. So if the site work contractor, for instance, had to go out and get another bond, it would just be another insurance company that the town's paying for, on top of the insurance company they already have.
Right, because typically we do this with non-town customer.
Right.
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 So I think the answer to this is that it becomes part of the permit,
Right.
that's being provided through the project, so that's
Yep.
how,
I'm
not,
fi-
not to double bond it, it's just that
Yeah,
it
we
is.
don't need
it's
to
just-
double bond it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. SP1 is resolved. I lost my-
So this requirement is that the property be tied to the nearest town bound.
Yep,
And the survey, I mean, the four corners of the site is actually town property.
yep,
Um,
that's fine.
Okay.
That's pretty normal.
Is that it says add to list of waivers, that's a waiver that needs to be?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
SP3, add abutters to plan. So I think that was just,
Do we want the name and address of all the abutters on the plan?
I think we just wanted the names, right? I mean,
Right, and that's been
Block
submitted.
lot.
addresses too? Okay, so we need both.
Yeah, typically, we've had, assessor map, incorporated onto that block and lot with a street address on the plan set.
Okay.
Not a USGS locus map.
Right. SP4, label districts for clarity.
So the survey that we sent in, the actual property lines for this property is actually the district lines as well. Surrounding the entire site is residential. And this site, and only this site within that residential, is zoned the business core. So by effect, the property lines is what we sent in, is that the property lines are in fact the district lines.
Is it labeled as such?
It is, yeah, we put a note on the survey that we sent in.
So
Comment?
it says, yeah, it says it's a district line, that's it. So all I'm asking for is to also note which side is the residential, which side is the.
Oh, no problem, yep, we can do that.
Okay. SP5 resolved. SP6, provide a zoning table for this information. Proposed building structures, including ground coverage, gross area footage, yeah, okay.
So
So do you want so you want a plan of all the existing buildings that are getting demolished? Because there's no buildings that will remain on the site when we're done.
I'm just, if that's the way you interpret this, I'm just saying that it's not provided. If that's not necessary, the board feels it's not necessary, then, I don't. I'm only saying what the requirement is. I don't necessarily know, there's a need for it, but.
Okay. So I think if we were interpreting this, and our civil engineer Marissa is also on the call, sometimes when you have a property that an existing structure's gonna remain and you're adding on to it, or you're building a second structure on the same property, then you kind of identify all the existing and all the proposed structures, including the ground coverage and the gross floor area of all the buildings, both existing and new. In this particular case, we're gonna have one new building and no other structures.
it's through a phased approach though, so there will be existing structures while construction's going on, correct?
But the one that's under construction is not occupiable, so technically it's not building until it gets an occupancy permit.
True.
So we can, we can provide whatever you'd like to provide, but just for clarity reasons, we don't want folks to think that somehow there's gonna be more buildings on the site than just the new fire station.
So typically you provide a zoning table, which you have existing and then proposed. So obviously the proposed won't include the existing. It'll obviously have a different floor area or building height or, you know, but just to show conformance and fulfill whatever the purpose of this requirement is.
Okay.
We good then, Ron?
Yeah, we'll figure something out for you.
Okay.
But that's gonna take two.
Right.
Put in a zoning table.
Or a table, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just a table. Yep.
Yep, we
Yeah.
can, you can just put a table in.
Column A, existing, column B, proposed.
Right.
Right.
Okay, yep.
All right. SP7 resolved. SP8 show test pit locations on site plans. Betsy,
Okay.
can you mute Rob? Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. SP9 provide oil water separator or request waiver.
So, again, Marissa's on the call if we need to get into it, but the regulations require a tight tank and not an oil water separator. So, and what I'm talking, and
This is for the
Marissa.
parking lot, though.
what's that?
We're talking about the parking lot, though.
Right. So you're saying the regulation for the parking lot requires a tight tank as opposed to an oil water separator?
Yeah, so
Sure.
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Marissa.
Sure, so for the parking lot areas, sometimes you provide an oil water separator to meet the regulations. We have met those regulations via Rain Guardians and a proprietary product, product and so it was just a different it was just a different treatment train to meet the regulations.
So that's not completely correct. Water quality unit is required. You'll see it, it'll come back up in the stormwater section.
This paved area, how is it gonna be cleaned and where is it going to?
Sure, so there's a couple different methods. The runoff from the west side of the site will enter catch basins and then go to a water quality structure and to a subsurface infiltration system.
Where is the water quality structure? Is
roof
it in the
runoff?
basin?
Yes, and then the
It's in the
overflow will
basin.
enter that fire retention basin in the front of the site. The roof runoff will be directly piped to that fire retention area.
So I
Some of
noticed
the
that,
paved parking areas will sheet flow and be treated via Rain Guardians, which provide TSS removal and then enter in the bioretention area. And then there is another small area to the east that, similar to the west, will go through a water quality structure to subsurface.
question to Marissa and Phil. So a lot of the cleaning, a lot of the runoff, the stormwater containment is gonna be in these two garden basins, correct?
Yeah.
What happens when we have the first snowstorm and freeze and nothing can permeate these basins because it's ice? What happens to the whole stormwater system then? I see that you haven't built these basins with any type of wick structure that would allow for infiltration and cleaning, even though the whole surface area is covered with snow and an ice cap or both. So basically, without that, nothing's going to be able to get through. Phil,
Sure, so
how is that accounted for?
So the basins are designed with a subsurface structure that promotes infiltration. In the cases of large storm events, there is an overflow into the street that would flow out, but water is intended to stay in the basin in most of the smaller storm events and then infiltrate.
Phil, because I know my case, I've got basins that freeze and nothing goes in there until the frost comes. How is this normally accommodated when your whole stormwater is basically, in the cleaning, is all done within an open area? Winter conditions.
Yeah. I mean, the standards don't discuss that issue. I do, it would make the basin more rechargeable. However, the soils, as far as I can tell from the test pits, are sandy soils. So it's any opportunity for the I don't think the sand is going to freeze permanently through the winter.
So if there's an ice cap on the basins, nothing gets through, and it goes to the street.
So I will say that when we were designing this, there were discussions that talk about the fact that there really shouldn't be any standing water in this. The way that the subsurface is being designed,
Well, in all defense, Ron, I was talking to the engineer, and I'm assuming they did all this, because
Sure.
in the specs, it talks about standing water being expected. I've seen this, I've built this, I've done this, and where you're right straight with a 3-foot deep depression 10 feet from the road, and you're telling me if you have a frost and a bunch of snow and a cap on it, it all just runs to the street. And secondary, if it's running to the street, that means the cleaning structure is not going to kick in because the biogen area is going to be filled with snow.
Sure. So if I can just address a few of your comments. So the basins are designed to infiltrate within 72 hours. And I think as Phil mentioned, and the soils underneath these systems are very sandy. So these will definitely infiltrate, on the quicker side of the 72 hours. So there's less of a chance of freezing. And, that they're not really designed to have a lot of standing water for a long period of time. The overflow structure is really designed just as that for larger storm events. And there is treatment in these bioretention areas, but there's also pretreatment. The flow from the parking lot will pass through those rain guardian structures. The overflow from the subsurface will have already been treated.
Well, that's great. I'm happy for that. I'm just talking about when the basins are frozen. That's it. The other stuff works fine. It's no different. You've got a combination of these basins there that, you're going to have a foot of snow. It's going to have an ice cap. You get a basement window with a well. The water's running right in your window. No different here. And nothing can be cleaned, and it rushes off to the street. And you've got permeable pavement there for the parking area. Is that correct? The asphalt?
No.
Is that what it is? Permeable pavement?
It's a small area.
The area of permeable pavement is here, but as per the last meeting, we're treating it as if it's impermeable.
Okay, great. Okay, that answers that question. Thank you.
Yep.
Does make some sense to give consideration to some wicking structure or something to be able to get it into the ground in those conditions? The only reason why, on top of the point, was the tie into the town system is really for emergency purposes, so we want to be sure that not getting the overall stormwater.
Got a faster runoff rate. Get the basins by the street. You get a low area there, and you got a foot of snow with an ice cap. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so to add to that, the regs it needs to be precise in terms of rate and volume, because again, the center stormwater system is not for,
Exactly. So right now, the rate that exceeds the regulations has to be addressed because that rate has to be the same as preconditions.
right.
Is that correct, Phil?
Right.
It's
Right
even
now,
though
they
it's
are
blurred, but
connected
it's
at
there.
both connections. So,
Mm-hmm.
so there is a runoff through these systems to the street now.
I'm just trying to avoid a flooding problem in the center of town if these conditions that may never happen or probably won't, blah, 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 do. That's all.
Sure, so in the roads condition, while you're seeing the basins closer to the street, some of the existing site doesn't really have a lot of stormwater management, and the infiltration systems, the subsurface on the west and east side of the site, as well as the basins, really help to delay the peak runoff rates.
Anyways, just my 2 cents. They have wick structures, you can, a discharge area that mitigates the basin being frozen with nothing going in and infiltrate. Sand is great, it's a great infiltrator, but if it's frozen, it doesn't infiltrate. And these wick structures that go in it eliminate all that. Granted, they cost more money, but they're set up for these type of conditions. I think Rich and I had talked about them, and I was surprised they weren't in there. Where you've got a 3-foot depression 10 feet from a roadway, and you're supposed to contain all of your stormwater on your site.
So,
So these are designed for very large streams. And obviously, you got a cold February, you got a warm March, all the snow is melting, permanent frost, and then you have a heavy rain. However, that's not a typical event in the winter.
All right, and that's great.
You don't have a very torrential, 5 to 8 inches of rain in the winter.
No, I'm talking about if it fills with snow and crusts over and it is, there is no infiltration, it just runs straight. It's kind of interesting when you talk about the one in a year event. Right now, we have to prepare for a 100-year storm. So the worst case scenario, we get 10 inches of rain in 2 weeks. You've got to design your stormwater to make that work. Well, the Department of, the DEP is now, again, DPW's information, passing regulations that new stormwater is going to have to account for a 500-year storm. So point being is, not only are they not interested in, well, it may happen, it may not. They want now, down the road, these systems to cover for a 500-year event, because the 100-year events become more common. So it's kind of, they're doing everything they can to stop the once in a 5-year period where things happen. That's all.
And obviously, when that comes with the design for those. I don't know if you want to put that on this project.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Phil.
So, I mean, when those design standards come out, obviously, everybody will be held to them.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Hopefully they're way down the road.
At this point, I don't know.
No,
I don't
I'm
know
not
you
talking
wanna
about that.
add
I'm just talking about their insistence in covering for even a once in a rare event type of occasion. I thought a once in a 100-year storm would be kind of a real rare occasion, and it always was. But now they're making it count for a once in a 500-year event.
Not quite yet, but it's coming.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So where does that put us on the oil-water separator?
Right.
Or waiver request?
So SP9,
Just include a waiver request.
yep,
All right.
okay.
You got sufficient treatment. Right.
Will do.
SP10, Beta defers to board, current plan will require a waiver.
So again, same waiver, right?
So direct roof runoff to dry wells and subsurface infiltration, the bioretention areas, yeah, so that would be a waiver.
Okay.
SP11, Beta defers to board as to when this should be provided. So indicate on the plan the cubic yards of gravel borrow that will be trucked onto the site. And your response was, will be provided prior to construction.
The issue here, the contract, the town blasted an area and left all the tailings in place.
Yep.
So the reality is the contractor has the option to take those tailings out of the ground, process them on site, and use them back into the ground. The contractor also has the option of just digging them out and taking them off site and then importing fill.
Okay.
And so what we suggest is rather than try to guesstimate this at this point, if they want to crush the tailings and turn it into gravel borrow, they have the ability to do that, and that's a cost savings measure. Actually, they both are. We're trying to give the contractor the flexibility to do it one way or the other, whichever is least expensive for the town.
Okay. So it's something that can't be calculated right now? Because
Correct.
I think,
I'm sorry, Phil, what was that?
well, I think the worst case scenario, but that's an easy calculation, actually. How much gravel borrow you can make.
So Phil, you're looking for
I
the
don't
number?
think,
I
think
got
it's
you.
gonna be held. Yeah, the idea, I guess, is to, I didn't write these regulations, but, the idea is just to get a fair amount of how much trucking is gonna happen.
So back on the napkin math is what you're looking for. Nobody's
Yeah.
gonna come by and
Yeah.
say, hey, you said you were gonna bring 4 truckloads, you only brought in 3.
Right.
So you want a worst-case calculation?
Right.
Yeah. So say yeah.
So say we didn't have any of the tailings available, you had to buy it and bring it all in, what would that look like? Just
Sure,
provide that
we can do that.
calculation and we can go from there.
And then you could put a little note on there, it's like this, something about what you just talked about. Is
Sure.
that
Supplemented
This-
by on-site conditions.
this may be reduced, given current conditions on site, that contractor may reuse. Yeah,
Okay, we can do that.
okay. SP 12, where are we? So that's scrolling down. Issue
Oh,
resolved.
it says resolve. Yep.
Yeah, SP 13, issue remains outstanding. Include all list of waivers on plan. So, I mean, you're working on that.
We're gonna update that
Yep.
list, yep.
Okay. SP 14, add to waiver list. Okay.
Yeah, it's on the list
Yep.
right now.
SP 15 resolved. SW 1 resolved. SW 2 provide a level impermeable barrier in spillway detail.
And we'll do that.
Yep, pine detail's been updated, okay. SW 3, correction, show pipe from head wall on northwest corner of site to street drain system. Plans have been updated, okay, so you're working on that. SW 4, additional test provided, CSP 8. What was SP 8? SP 8 was show test pit locations, okay. So you're working on that. SW 5, conductivity test not provided, request waiver. That, you good with that, Ron?
Yeah, so we did the additional test pits. Marissa, did we not test for something with the soil?
We didn't do conductivity tests. We used the Rawls rates to determine and textual class to determine the type of soil.
Okay, so what we have is, Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, is we have some tests that show that the media will allow for the infiltration. We just did a different type of test. So if we request a waiver, is that, just so everybody understands, are you okay with the test that we did?
Yeah, I mean, this along with, that, right now the sandy soils are expected. We have a condition later on that talks about having someone observe the excavation for infiltration and bioretention systems. So we should be able to tell pretty readily if there's with soil at that time. But right now it's both rated as an A soil and the tests show it's sand. So I don't necessarily have an issue with not providing the conductivity tests. This is a requirement in the regulations, in the town's regulations, but I don't see a problem waiving it either.
Okay, so we'll request a waiver.
SW,
It should be.
proposed infiltrate practice to elevate groundwater. The owner is seeking a waiver.
Yeah.
That's a tip. Or if you have an issue with failure, you can tell if it's a groundwater issue or if it's some other issue.
So
So what, yeah.
So they're requesting a waiver, and we're saying no waiver.
It's not typically, you know, it's not typically given. That, again, that's your choice.
So what's the reason why?
So Ron, why were you requesting a waiver on this?
Marissa, do you want to?
Sure. So, I mean, typically with surface basins, if there is an issue, you can pretty quickly determine the cause of the issue if there's any type of failure. That is one of the benefit to a surface basin. You can,
We just lost our audio.
We lost your audio, Marissa.
Actually, it looks like we lost our microphone too, again.
Really?
Oh, yeah, we can't hear Ron either.
Excuse us, we are having technical difficulties.
When it rains, it pours.
I wonder if they can hear us now.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
You guys hear me?
We can
Yep.
hear you
Now
again.
we can.
Yep.
Okay.
So Marissa
uh,
tailed off. We only heard about half of what Marissa said.
Okay.
sure. So typically with a surface basin, you can observe and you're, as part of the O&M, you're supposed to observe and make sure that the basin drains within 72 hours and meets the regulations. And if that does not happen, then you can look at the basin and see if there's sediment buildup at the bottom that needs to be cleaned, or if it's another issue.
The reasons these are allowed is to be proactive. Again, it gets back to the same old stormwater thing. Every single basin in this town has always had at least one monitor rail, maybe two. And the water tables are observed by either the builder or the Board of Health over time. If the water table fluctuates, which it can quite a bit, you're gonna know before you start to build the basin. So if you have the basin going at this certain depth, and you found out the groundwater, which, I mean, in this time period, we don't even allow groundwater testing because it's outside the period, the rainy season. So the reason these are put in is to watch it, so if there are fluctuations, before you start building the basin, put in your structures, you know that, and you can modify that. That's why, as Phil said, it's not normally waived.
Okay, we can take a look at that with the town. No problem.
Yeah, I think we'd be more comfortable having that well and that monitoring well in there.
Okay.
Okay, SW7, Beta response was separate system not provided, CSP10.
So SB10, we told them to file for a waiver for that.
Okay.
And so, Phil, are you confident that if we're doing the waiver for that, that not having the separate system is not going to be an issue?
I think it's a good idea to have a separate roof runoff system. They require very little maintenance, and they'll reduce the size of your other basins. So.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Like, it feels like we're piling a lot into that one system.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the fact of the matter is, a lot of it, I mean, stormwater, I keep repeating myself, it's huge. We're right near the street.
Right.
All these things are preventatives in case of what if.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, that's why they're normally done, that's why they're in the regulations. And a lot of this just making assumptions and after the fact, to me,
Right.
it's not the right type of planning, that's all.
So this if, Marissa, correct me if I'm wrong, but this changes everything, right? So this goes from the bio that we've talked about, you know, being a sustainable green community, and basically gets rid of them and puts all of the drainage underground. Is that what this is suggesting?
That is correct.
Oh,
Or
if we're
just
doing-
separating the systems.
Right.
No,
Yes,
that's not, no, that's not correct. So we're just talking about the roof runoff.
Right.
So we would be required to have larger underground systems if we were to direct the roof to its own system.
Okay, why don't we do this? Can we circle back on this, and we'll talk with Marissa a little bit further, and then we'll talk to Rich and the town, and just make sure that we're understanding this correctly. So what this says is that the roof system should have a different system, the roof runoff, all of the downspouts and such, should have a different infiltration system than the parking lot areas and the rest of the site.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. All right. That
Okay.
sounds, yep. We'll take a look
SW,
at that.
all right, SW8, Beta's comment is provide interim contour as requested. Have been updated to reflect, okay, so
We can provide that.
you're gonna do
Yeah, we'll
that.
take a look and make sure we do that right. Yep.
Okay, SW9 says CW7,
Right, we requested a waiver.
is that,
Fence around the basin.
I'm sorry, what was that, Phil?
It's a security fence around the basin.
Okay.
So if it's only 3 feet deep, you know, that's not huge.
Okay. SW10, add to list of waivers, and you said that a waiver will be requested.
Yep.
SW11 has been resolved, SW12 resolved, SW13 resolved,
Right, I thought it was even deeper.
SW14 resolved, SW15 resolved, SW16, revised plan to match rain guardian detail, sluice to structure off pavement. Plans and TSS removal counts have been updated to include the rain guardian structure. So you've taken
Yeah.
that into consideration then?
So the rain guardian is supposed to be off. You can't, so you don't want to be driving over the rain guardian. So, the way they have it shown is as if it was a catch basin.
Yes.
Not related to that.
Yep.
So we do have the 7:15 hearing.
Yep.
I'm wondering if it might not be a terrible idea to just read the notice and just open it and pause it to come back to this. It's a little.
We've only got a couple more pages.
Can we do that? We already have a hearing open. Can you open another hearing while one's open?
Well, we're just gonna recess this to open that one and come back to this one.
We're so close to the end.
I think we're close. We
Yeah,
only
we're-
have
we're right
we only
there,
have 2
Rich.
pages left, Rich. I know. Okay. All right.
It's all important.
I'm
not
almost
saying-
there.
No.
I'm taking a break.
So SW 17, 18, and 19 all resolved.
Yeah.
Not applicable. SW 20.
Yeah, we can finish up the SWIP and get, not a
Okay.
problem.
All right, 21 is resolved. 22, add to erosion control plan.
Again, it's the sequence of construction, so the contractor will come in and they're sort of in charge of means, methods, and sequencing the construction. We can provide you, at least when it comes to the erosion control plan, I mean, we can provide you the phase of the project, which is obviously build the new and then take down the old and finish the site work. But in instance, erosion control, are you looking for anything more than what the SWIP would say?
So generally, a general sequence of construction is typically provided on the road control plan, just so it will give guidance in preparing the SWIP, and also just to think it through in this process as well.
Okay. And then the other thing about completed and signed, what happens is Marissa's going to put together the SWIP, but the contractor actually has to complete it and sign it online after they're hired.
Yeah.
Correct?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So that's why we would include it as a condition, so,
Okay, all right.
yep.
Okay. SW20.
And there's a few others that we just recommend you put it on the erosion control plan now, because this will be part of the approval set. So you'll see that it comes up a few times that we want, see if you can add it
25,
now.
26, 27, they're all erosion control.
Yep.
Okay, we can do that. We'll review it and do that.
Okay.
Right.
So SW23 through 27 all are related to that
Right,
erosion
right.
control plan.
You want to coordinate the snow storage with the landscaping. It looks like you got snow storage piled up with its trees, so you got to be careful of that.
Yep, we'll take a look at that as well.
Okay. And I think that goes on to all the way through SW29. So,
Okay.
all right. So LA1 resolved.
You missed 28.
Did I-
Beta recommends an estimate be provided and signature obtained.
Well, I think that's all part of this erosion control.
Okay.
Yeah. All the rest of the SWs you're gonna work on.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
LA1
Good.
resolved. LA Beta says foundation detail provided, provide detail, or light pole detail. Provide. So,
We'll send you the cut sheet of the light poles that was specified.
okay.
Yep.
U1 is resolved, and that's it.
And then that's Phil.
So Phil, any additional questions that we didn't cover?
No, I think John raised the requirement for the distance from the street, so that should also be included as a waiver request for
Okay.
the ponds. And other than that, I think we can get through these. I think we're good.
So we're gonna correct that rate of runoff, so, like preconditions?
Yeah, no, that's standard one, standard two, so, they've met that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something we always, pay careful attention to.
Okay.
Okay. So any other questions from the board? Ron, Marissa, anything?
Just thanks for your time and your efforts, and this has been, great, and hopefully we'll answer all your questions on the next submittal.
Okay.
So in terms of project-related topics, we'll discuss it later, but
Right.
you'll go over the zoning bylaw change in terms of the screening to the adjacent, to the church.
Right.
Okay.
So
That's right.
Yep.
So
we'll talk about that later, but I mean,
Yep.
that's
So that'll be later in
project-related,
our,
but on our zone.
later on our
I
agenda.
might watch it from home if that's okay.
Yeah.
Is that something you want us on the call for?
No, you.
No.
Okay.
You're welcome to stay on if you would like to, but I don't know if you need to.
Do we have
Okay.
any questions from anyone on Zoom?
Yeah, any other questions for people here in the audience or on Zoom with regarding to this public hearing for the fire station? I see none. So we need to continue this.
Yes. September 13th?
So it'd be continued to September 13th at 7.
Yes, you do.
You think you can address these items by then, Ron?
So it's 2 weeks, Ron. I wasn't sure if that's enough time to circle.
What do you think, Marissa?
Yeah, from our perspective, we can address them.
Okay,
All right. We're going to say yes. We'll get it done.
okay.
Okay, motion to adjourn the 117 Main Street, Norfolk. Fire Station.
No, we want to continue it.
To continue.
Continue
Motion
it.
to continue 117 Main Street, Norfolk Fire Station Site Plan Review to September 13th at 7 PM.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now have a public,
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman, I have a
yes.
2-minute break, if you don't mind. Or
Okay.
you could just continue on without me, but I'll be back in 2 minutes.
okay. Are you okay if we get the public hearing started?
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. So we have public hearing at 7:15, which we're a little behind, for Norway Farm subdivision, open space development, special permit modifications. Do we need to read this in?
We do.
Yes, it's an
Right.
initial public hearing. We'll have Eric read the public record.
Yep.
Notice is hereby given that in accordance with Mass General Law, Section 40A, the Norfolk zoning bylaw H2F1, that a public hearing will be held on Tuesday, August 30th, of the definitive subdivision and special permit approvals for the Norway Farms Open Space Preservation Subdivision in Norfolk, Mass. The applicant, Norway Farms Drive LLC of Norfolk, Mass. Is requesting a modification of the definitive subdivision and special permit approvals for the open space development to eliminate future roadway easement C and walking trail between Norwood Farms Drive and Crestbrook Road. The property is located in the R1 zoning district, reference Assessor's Map 8, Block 38, Lot 34. Plan of application are available for public inspection in the office of the Norfolk Planning Board during the hours of 9 to 6 p.m., Monday through Thursday.
Okay. Public hearing is open. Do we want to, Rich, do you want to give an overview of where we're at, or? I mean,
I think we've kind of, well, I mean, you
I know we've talked about this at
Yeah,
some
we-
previous planning board meetings, that we're looking at eliminating the roadway and the trail. And Rich was working on a plan to achieve that, with the developer, with both parties. So you got the developer, and then you have the and Crest, an easement property.
Correct, yep. So as part of this, we'll get into what I'll, really kind of an outline of hopefully how this could be achieved in terms of the scope of the work and who would do it, who's doing what, and so forth. So I think it may make sense to just share the, so you see the roadway parcel.
Yep.
That's within Norway Farms, so that would go away. And in terms of, for roadway purposes,
So the parcel goes away, or?
in terms of
It gets
roadway,
absorbed.
when I say roadway, yeah,
Right,
so.
so it gets absorbed by the common space and that,
It's gonna remain, it'll remain as a parcel, but it's not gonna be a roadway parcel.
Okay.
So,
gotcha, thank you.
and then the scope of the work is to, turn it into a lawn area, some plantings, and so really kind of removes the feel and look and function of a pathway. Well, that's upside down. That's
I
upside
know.
down. All
Realize that.
right. And then, I think probably the
Free trial so that
that's
you
so
can rotate
bright.
pages.
What the
free
heck?
trial. Probably going through,
I'll get another one.
I think at least I've shared back and forth some emails with Attorney Maitland and Rob Kane in terms of, what the scope of this is. So that's probably really the guts of this whole thing, I would say. So I would think we'll put it up on the screen. We can kind of go through it point by point. But the overall intent of this is that, like I said, is to remove the walking trail between the Crestbrook Road neighborhood and Norway Farms. In terms of Norway Farms, like I just mentioned, the roadway parcel goes away. It becomes just a parcel. Crestbrook Road, still the access, that easement that's on record already, that remains. So that's not going away. That's already been on record. That's there. That's right.
That really the issue, so to speak. If the easement is staying on the Crestbrook side,
There's no our town meeting though.
I get that. I'm thinking like from it was mostly an aesthetic, looking to traverse the trail that was supposed to be there. How does that resolve those issues? Because it seems like it's only changes on paper.
It only, No, it changes on the land, actually, not on the paper.
Okay, so what will end up happening on the land then after?
So if we really want to, and this is separate from them, right, so this is a town meeting, town side of the business, is to change this, what's within that easement. So there is a water line there now, there's electric utilities through there, so really be the access
So the
piece.
easement stays.
Easement stays,
On
so-
Norway Farms and.
But why wouldn't the easement stay on Norway Farms?
It does.
Utility.
The easement's
The-
there, but it's
the-
utilities. The
It's
ro-
just utility,
Yeah.
the roadway
The
is.
road aspect
Yeah,
of it
okay.
goes away.
Thank
So it
you,
would
thank you.
never be a
Okay.
road.
Yeah.
Can't be a
Right.
road, and the walking trail goes away, so that goes away.
Right.
So similar to like Frederickson, there's that little piece,
Yeah, piece between, but it's just for
but it's just,
pedestrian.
right,
Right.
okay.
Although,
Okay.
scratch this, no pedestrian here anymore.
Got it.
But this is really a partnership, if you will, that Rob has come to the table to agree that, like, there was intent, maybe it made sense, but as a practical matter, to get rid of that walking trail, there's a logic to it. So, but all the details kind of need to come together to happen, which is, Rob is doing some of this, obviously, as we go through the scope, so maybe it makes sense to go through the list of kind of the scope of the work.
I think that's good, giving an overview of how,
Yeah,
why we're doing this. That was helpful.
Yeah.
And so now here's the steps to accomplish it.
now I want to make sure, Elizabeth, can you speak in here? I just want to double check.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yes.
All right, just want to be
Can
sure.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
'cause
Yes.
we had Zoom issues before, so I just want to be,
I know.
So,
Good evening, Elizabeth Maitland here representing Norway Farms Drive LLC. Rob Kane is also on, the manager of the entity. And in essence, what's going to happen is the walking trail, due to issues related to the grade and simply an inaccessibility issue for pedestrians and bicyclists, it actually is a safety issue. It will basically be restored to grass. Rob has agreed to go in and prepare it to loom and seed, so that it will in essence revert to a grassy area. It's my understanding that the abutting property owners, the Crestbrook property owners, will maintain that area. Again, that easement has already been recorded. It exists for a future roadway. So that will in essence just be restored to what it was before the whole project started. And which I think is palatable to both the abutter on Crestbrook Road and, also Mr. Kane, as it just obviously was an impractical walking trail. On paper, it looked good, but in the field, it just wasn't a great idea. And then the easement shown on the Norway side as a future roadway easement C, approximately 13,352 square feet, that will, in essence, instead of being conveyed as an easement to the town for future roadway, that will, in essence, be conveyed to Norway Farms Homeowners Association, so that the Homeowners Association will be able to pay the taxes, the maintenance, the landscaping, and basically maintain that property, rather than having it within a specific lot. So that, in essence, is the plan. I think we've worked out most of the details with Mr. McCarthy, and we thank you for working with us on this. And, we hope to basically have the property revert to what it was, and the property on the Norway side of the easement would revert then to the homeowners association. And we did submit, 2 documents, both the request to modify the special permit to this extent, and also to modify the decision on the definitive approval, because in both of those documents, this pathway is mentioned, and it would need to be addressed that way.
yeah, so I did see in the chat, Mrs. Riley can't see, so I'm gonna screen share,
Oh, okay.
just so,
I'm not seeing any documents,
Yeah,
Richard, if
yeah,
you
we're
have
gonna
any.
Yeah,
Sure.
Rich is gonna fix that.
Okay.
Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
so.
We have it
And,
on the
you know-
screen here, but not shared yet. There it goes.
Okay, great. And prior to the subdivision being, which we're moving, very nicely toward that time. We would at that time, of course, submit a plan showing to be conveyed to the homeowners association trust. And we will at that time submit a plan, but there will be no conveyance to the town for a roadway easement.
But we're still gonna keep the utility easement, correct?
Yeah, just not a roadway easement, but yeah.
Upside down. All right, bear with me. Upside down.
Sorry, it's the upside down plan, you can't rotate.
Okay.
I think what you're looking at there is the Crestbrook
Right.
easement, yes.
Yeah, I think that, correct, I think the question about Crestbrook, not necessarily Norway Farm.
Right, well,
Well,
Crestbrook
no, I
is
mean, the
where
question
work
Mrs.
is going to
Riley
be
had,
per-
that was all. Sorry.
Crestbrook is where the work is going to be performed, as far as having it revert back to negate the requirement for that trail and to alter the designation on the plan to show that it's now going to be conveyed to the Norway Farms Homeowners Association instead of to the town of Norfolk as a future roadway easement. But the work itself is going to be performed abutting where that future roadway easement on the Crestbrook side is shown, abutting the Riley's lot.
Yeah, I was just merely just pulling up the recorded plan to show it was the easement that was on record for
Yeah.
Crestbrook.
Yes.
It wasn't just, it wasn't limited to water, that's all. I'm trying to answer that question. So I go back to, I guess go back to that list again.
And we had sent in a sketch plan showing,
Yeah. That's a little easier to see, right? At home?
what's that?
Can you see the
What's
list
that?
back to the scope of work again?
Zoom in a little bit.
Zoom in a little
I
bit?
can see the scope of work.
All right. Everybody in the room can? We can. Oh, sorry.
Technologically challenged.
Hey, hey.
Not you.
Well, no, it's me, because I'm the one that's going between the damn, too quick for that.
What are you doing
Rich
now?
is working on it. I don't know what happened. We
I
had
don't
it.
know, it was going well.
Okay. And while he's was doing that, I'd like to couple our request. Norway
Hold on a
Farms has
second.
obviously paid for the publication fees, but we would ask a waiver on the fees associated with the modification of the special permit and the definitive subdivision approval. This was basically a mutual decision in the benefit of all parties involved, and we would respectfully ask that we waive the typical fees associated with these type of modifications.
All right, so let's go back to the scope of work.
I don't know if I'm that kind.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so we're bringing people together and the blend. Not somebody who's being hired by the town. This is, Rob's gonna be doing the work. There'll be supervision, which I'll talk in the end about, point, which is Beta, who does this type of oversight work for us, observation, will be involved with that. And I think the benefit of having Beta involved with it is the fact that they've got no history with it either. So they really are truly independently involved with this, because they did not do the original peer review design, well, not the original, but the final plan approval. Tetra Tech was involved with the peer review and oversaw the specifications on the walking trail.
Now,
So
do they have the power to correct on site as things are happening, or they would just record what happened and then let us know?
it would be, what we typically would do is, as things, if need to be done, we'd be in communication with them. So if something comes up in the field, we have to make decisions if need be.
What are they gonna do?
Not really much.
Right.
It's just loam and
But
seed,
it's
but
just
yeah.
cover the base. If something, I don't know, something could, but yeah, it could be real time
Yeah.
in terms of it.
Yep.
So Rob will be doing the seeding. The town Norfolk DPW is providing the loam, which
So we're giving that loan to them.
the contribution, this partnership is the town Norfolk is providing the loan. the last revision that you see in here, which is underlined, was that would be brought to the site from the DPW. And then company would work backwards. They would start in Crestbrook and work their way towards Norway Farms. So that's where the access would be coming in to do the work. Normal care would be taken in doing the work. I think as we go through this, probably the sprinkler one's gonna be something that there may be some comments on.
On what?
The sprinklers. So the sprinklers, they're within the town easement, so that's something Rob is gonna be involved in, or the town. How they're,
So we're gonna lumen seed this
we're
easement.
gonna lumen seed it, okay? And then we're gonna, the rain's gonna come out in the sky and it's gonna be watered and hopefully, and then the plan is to have it germinated. If Riley's do have sprinklers, if they wanna
And next year
provide
it'll
additional.
be ragweed and goldenrod, and it'll be a field, and that's just the way it is, 'cause there's no water.
Well, hopefully Mother Nature, hopefully we turn in terms of the water comes out of the sky.
You silly boy. Anyways, all right.
So say it's weather.
Rich is being positive.
Oh, my God. This, yeah.
Try to be
Think positive, John.
Okay?
right.
DPW is gonna lay out and mark where the easement is, so the work and the landscapers are within the confines of the easement. They don't get outside the easement area. So there isn't any issues, hopefully in that regard. It'll be fertilized. There's Lesco brand, which Rob had just added in here. And like I said, the town would, not the town actually, sorry, through the land use planning board office, Beta would be out observing the work to make sure it's done appropriately, and that's the high-level summation of the work
And we're anticipating the work will be performed this fall.
this fall.
Yeah. So if we can come to agreement, I'm not trying to get ahead of ourselves, but if we can come to an agreement tonight, then we can have a decision ready on it can get started and get it done this fall. Right.
Yes.
And then, do you want to talk about the consultant, Rich?
Well,
Work will be observed by a peer review consultant.
Which in this case, I mean,
Beta.
we use Beta.
We would
so
use
that-
Beta, yeah.
To review the looming and seeding?
Yes.
Yes. It's a great inspection job. I would have loved those in my day.
Nothing personal. We're making this guy spend all this money. We have 1 million easements in town, billions, basins. This is gonna be a weed forest within a year because there's no water. I just hate to see him peer review. Look, call me silly, but I've been doing this for a real long time. Let's schedule a site walk for 2 years from now.
So what would
All right.
you recommend then?
Let it
So
go
just to
natural. If the grade is okay and somebody can access that if they need to for water, just let it go. There's no water. It's gonna be, it's gonna be like every basin in this town, which is a problem. But it's a,
Isn't there more nuance to the peer review, right? Like the initial scope of work seemed pretty easy too, and that's become myth and legend of Norfolk, right? So,
God, are you engineers or? Excuse me for being cynical, but, right, if you don't have water in a loomy area,
no, I completely understand, but I
mean-
think there's more that goes into factoring peer review than just that. It's it's just to understand and make sure the work is done properly without any side effects
no, I'm
this
just saying
time.
there's no work. I mean, it's gonna be. And the rest of it inland, that's unapproachable, it's gonna be natural. That's all. But anyways, you know, I just don't like to see the guy spend money when I really don't see a need. That's it. That's it.
Well,
But
just to get back to, or in terms of how we got to tonight, the issue that was raised with the walking trail through there is it's gravel, there's weeds going up through, who's gonna maintain it, so it devolved.
Yep.
And so this proposal is to restore it to back the way it is, as part of a lawn area, the walking trail goes away. And
And then the Rileys can continue to
The
maintain the
Rileys
property.
continue to maintain as a lawn area as part of the lawn, and there's an easement on the property, and that's it. And be done with it. So that's really what's going on here. I mean, that's nothing.
Could it not be maintained as is? I mean, the DPW is not going to maintain this trail.
No.
They don't have they're just not. So, but could that trail that's there be maintained by the homeowners?
Well, going
With
forward,
minimal
the
effort?
homeowners are going to take care of their portion, and then the HOA is going to take care of the other
Well,
portion.
there's, the Norway Farms, there is a mechanism in place to maintain it.
Correct.
Norway Farms, there's not that mechanism on Crestbrook Road.
Well, the mechanism is the homeowner would.
The homeowner, right.
It's an easement on their property, so
Correct.
if, it's obviously their choice,
The
but,
first 50 feet of the abutting adjacent land of the two lots there, they'll keep it up so there's a fluid flow of grass along there, and they'll probably water it too. They'll have to water it.
But I think,
But the rest deep in?
Right.
yeah. So between email and the Rileys appearing before the planning board, I think they've been pretty clear they don't want to they're not interested in maintaining it.
that's my understanding as well.
So that's why we're here
Yep, yep.
on that piece of it.
Okay.
So I'll just pause at the moment.
Well, they don't want to maintain it in its current form.
That, if I may, that's what I understand, that the agreement is that they're interested in maintaining it once it reverts to a grass area.
Right.
But they're not interested in maintaining the
Correct.
trail as it now exists.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's my
I mean,
understanding as
As far as
well.
water and that sort of thing, that seems to be, and it's very important to us that it be understood that would, once the consultant has signed off on the placement of the loom and the seed, it would then be totally butters. It would be their onus to maintain, to water, to do whatever they need to do. But once we've placed it to the satisfaction of the town's consultant, we need to make our peace with this and be finished.
Yeah.
So there is someone in the audience I know wants to speak, and then
Yep.
Mrs. Riley has her hand up.
Okay.
As well,
Yep.
so I know who you want to.
We can go with the audience first, yep.
Hi, I'm Alex Ham. I live at 5 Crestbrook Road. I want to say that I support this proposal as it is. I think it is important for us to change the current status of the so-called walking trail and make sure that we remove the weeds and try to cover up the gravel because there are, our neighborhood is not very large. We only have 7 homes. And there is only one part that has weeds up to your waist or higher, and it's on this easement that was meant to be a walking trail and has been fallen into total disrepair. I've tried to use it one time, and halfway down the supposed walking trail, you hit a bunch of orange tape that says, "Go no further." So I think it's very important that we make sure that this is returned to the state. It could be and it was in the past, and that it gets handled correctly. And fully expect that it will be maintained to the same status of the rest of the lawns in the neighborhood, which look just fine. The only issue we have around there is the fact that this walking trail has kind of existed as a failed experiment. I haven't spoken to my neighbors who actually own the property where the easement is on, but I believe that addressing this situation with some additional safeguards in place, given the fact that we have a little bit of loss in public trust based on how poorly it went when it was meant to be a walking trail, is the appropriate solution. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Anyone on Zoom?
You have Karen?
Karen was up.
Hello, thank you for letting us speak tonight. I'll go through my list of items. On August 2nd, Rich, and we never agreed to the portion to have Rob do the repair work on our side of the easement. Not sure what happened to that. Number 2, we are the ones who pay taxes on this easement, and we have for the last 16 plus years. It was originally sod, put in by the previous homeowners with irrigation system, and it was gorgeous. And we can show you before and after pictures There were never weeds. So John Weddleton, I'm not sure what you're talking about, weeds in a few years, but that will never happen on our property. We have a school teacher here that spends the summer getting every weed out of his lawn. So that will never happen on our side of the property. And Alex, I think, probably could agree to how it looked prior. We've been good stewards of this land for over 16 years, as well as the cul-de-sac at the end of our street. And I'll just go back to say, when all of this started, way back when Rob first put in his plans to the town, Bill did a lot of legwork and ended up saving Rob well over $600,000, finding out that he did not have to put, I'm not sure who was on the planning board back then, but it was originally a plan to actually do a roadway from Westbrook down through this easement over to Rob's property. And because of the legwork Bill did for free, we determined, and so did the town, that he did not have to do that roadway, which was going to require bridge work and all this other infrastructure. We had very little to say to, with the walkway, as far as, the crushed stone and all of that stuff that has clearly been a failure. We've suffered the consequences, with power outages and, the list goes on. I don't think I need to go into them. We've stated many of those in the emails. So in conclusion, I think that's all I have to say. Bill, I'm not sure if you have anything to add. Thank you very much for letting us speak.
Yeah, if I can just add, Bill Riley, what Karen said is true, and we did maintain this property very nicely for many years. It's really just been since Rob started the connection that he needed with the easement that everything kind of just fell apart. And I will say another thing, just as a homeowner that is now hearing for the first time tonight that it sounds like our request for, after talking with Rich about his proposal, it seems like it's being ignored. You have to say, I think you put it mildly, Rich, when you said that we don't get along well. Rob has been hostile to me, both publicly and.
We're not here to talk about that tonight.
But it is a factor in it, though, because as John will tell you.
That has stopped that. We're not. That's not relevant.
But you're proposing that this person's going to be working on my property with his company. I have no interest whatsoever to have Rob on our property doing anything. He's had plenty of opportunities to do this and to do it right. And we've had power outages, we've had.
Okay, yep, that was in, yeah.
And so for that reason, I don't feel comfortable at all with having him do any.
Or his company.
Or his company, what's the difference? I don't really care. So that is a factor in it though, so. And there is a history.
And one other thing I just want to add, he really reduced the value of property because of what it looks like over there. And I think someone must have driven by, I'm not sure who on the plane.
That's speculative, but I know John had a question for Karen.
No, Karen, just to be clear, I'm talking about land that is not going to be maintained, which is most of the inner part of that easement. As I said, the people on either end that are going to have a view of it will probably maintain that. So I'm only talking about all the interior stuff that no one's going to be able to maintain. That will revert back to weeds.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And so to answer the question in terms of from August 2nd today, discussions with Rob, in coming to try to come to the middle to have us resolve the issue, he's not, would be amenable to the landscape company doing the work, but he's not going to, his coming to the table is not to write a check and have somebody else do the work on your property.
Is that what the Rileys are asking for?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to hear it.
All right.
It is what we're asking for, Chris. We're, Rob's had, now it's years and several opportunities to do this. And.
Okay.
So if just to reiterate, so you, the homeowner, the Rileys, would like Rob to pay for it but not do it. And Rob is unwilling to do that. So if we're at an impasse, then do we not just leave it as is?
Yeah. You're on mute.
No, I think we're on mute.
I think we're on
Oh,
mute.
we're on mute.
Hold on.
Elizabeth, can you hear us?
I don't want Rob touching
Elizabeth, you
it,
just
because
need to unmute
he's
yourself.
shows me, I wouldn't hire Rob to do it, or any of his company to do the work, and I don't think any of you would either, if you had work to be done on your
Well,
property.
apologies,
With the
we had a
history that
little
we
loss
have,
in audio
that's-
there.
That's where we stand.
Okay. Understand?
Excuse me, may I
Yes.
be heard, please?
Yes.
Yes, well, perhaps it wasn't made clear. Mr. Kane will not be entering the Riley property. He has absolutely no intention of performing any work on their property. He will pay the landscaping company who is doing the work within his subdivision, which I would hope you all agree is absolutely lovely. The landscaping work that has been done in there is just exemplary. And that is the company who would be performing the work on the Riley property. That is what he is willing to do, to assume the expense for that. If they don't want that, then the trail as it exists will remain. I don't think anyone wants that. I think we would like to move forward. We would like to have a productive conversation. We know that there has been a troubled past. We're trying to make peace and move forward at great expense to Mr. Kane. And if the Rileys don't want that, then it will remain as it is, and that will be the end of it.
Or the
I
third
think
option, we
it's a
go through with
win-win
removing
solution
the
for everyone.
easement.
I
and then
take great
allow them
offense
to do
at
what they want.
bringing that up as
On their own
almost
sides.
like an ultimatum.
Yeah, excuse me, we're
Rob has
not,
really had plenty of opportunity. I honestly don't care about his expenses, because this shouldn't have happened. We shouldn't be at this point years into this project.
Walking trail and revert it back to a utility easement.
Yep.
That's basic and,
Right.
that doesn't change. That's the job of the planning board technically, to
Right.
just reconstruct that to a utility easement. That should be our vote, and then everything else is superfluous for, however they can come together or not.
Yeah,
That's all, that's our job, that's.
I agree.
Restoration pieces outside of it,
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, we cannot have,
We
cannot have Mr.
we tried.
Kane
Right.
take somebody else's vendor and pay their bill.
Right.
It's You can't do that.
No, that doesn't work.
Yeah,
So
no.
that's what creates the stalemate, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So I propose that number one, we classify this changing of a walking trail to utility easement as a minor modification. That is my motion if it's accepted.
Well, you did have a hearing, so you're open in terms of, so you've covered the base on that for, well, you can do it however you want. It's been advertised to modify. I would certainly wouldn't class it minor on the special permit side.
Yeah, to me, this is a minor modification.
It's minor in scope, but it's been advertised, and so, the
Is
board.
advertised as a public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, this is a
yes.
public hearing.
Yeah, we
yeah.
opened it.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, so we did, both are advertised as public hearings.
Yep.
So moved?
So do we have a second?
Sorry, what was the motion
Well, the
again?
motion now,
Motion.
my motion goes away because it's already construed as a major modification, so.
Oh, so we can't have this
basically,
motion.
we're
We would
gonna-
have to,
We close the hearing.
we have to close the hearing, right?
Right.
You
And-
close the hearing and then vote.
And then we can vote on a minor modification.
We can vote on the modification.
Just
Correct.
the modification.
In the
Modification,
essence of a
right.
public hearing, it's a major change.
Right. So,
If I may,
Elizabeth has
we
a-
would still,
Right.
we would still ask the board to consider the component regarding the easement on the Norway side, on the Norway Farm side.
Hey, Karen,
so
do you
with
mean?
regard to what, Elizabeth? I'm sorry. As far as
With that-
changing it and removing, and,
With that reverting to the homeowners association.
okay. So that would still be a major then?
Yeah.
Would it
They're all
not?
covered on it, it's just how you kind of, we craft it, so it'd be, you close the hearing.
Yeah, okay. Right.
That, what is roadway becomes a parcel which will be owned by the association.
Right.
And, but there's no restoration piece.
So there's no
on it.
restoration. So we're moving forward with, yes, I got you.
Half of it,
All right.
essentially. I guess.
Right. So we're moving forward with making the changes to the,
Norway
to the Norway Farms easement,
And
but
the
not
rest-
the restoration.
Their work can,
Okay.
they can do what they, yeah.
Okay.
It's just Crestbrook, there's no.
So,
And are we abandoning the walking trail?
Yes.
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 Okay.
So motion to close the hearing.
Before you close this hearing, can I just ask a question? Because I'm lost in where we're at on this. Back to the, so if you're eliminating the walking trail, which we all agree is the proper way to do this, should never have been done in the first place. To rectify this, and we have our issues with Rob's company doing it, if we gave in and had his company do it with the concession that Rob never sets property, who is to oversee the working of this?
That was the Beta Group, our third party.
It's a neutral
Okay,
third
so
party.
can we add some line at the end, if they come in and finish that work, that we have a final walkthrough, that we all agree that the work has been
Motion
done
open
satisfactory?
here and the close.
I personally would say no. I would say that whatever Beta Group says is
So,
it, because
yeah.
they're a neutral
That-
third
that is-
party, they didn't have anything to do, they're not related to anything except for the town, and that's it.
So
That is a
yeah.
critical component. That
Right,
is a
the critical, right,
component.
exactly. That, everybody has said, that is the critical component, is having this independent third party. They were not part of the peer review of the original, so they are completely independent.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it.
I mean, the way that I see it right now, the town's going above and beyond. We're providing the loan, we're providing an independent third party. We're trying to make amends between these two property owners, and that's above and beyond what the planning board should and could be doing. So
So-
either the Rileys can take it and we can move forward, or we can just go ahead, remove the provision for this being a future roadway easement and it being currently a walking trail, and then we can vote on that, or we can just, you know,
So the town hired the third party, or did Rob hire
the
the?
town.
Town will hire the third party.
The town. In point of fact, to try to bridge this to make an agreement, it's coming through the town budget. It's not, is above normal terms.
Right.
To get this issue resolved.
I don't understand why the town's paying for the loan, to be honest with you. My beef is not with the town.
Town's not paying, they're
The t-
providing the loan.
We're
The town's just
providing it,
providing the loan.
yeah.
That's-
Blair, I
that's
don't think's on the
generous.
call, but I had talked to Blair at the DPW, and they have thousands of yards of loam that they'll be happy to.
And it's already free for, you know, public use within town with the transfer station sticker.
And quite, and the purpose of having Beta is to have an independent party, so it's not residents of the town pointing to DPW this or vice versa. The new residents of Norway Farms, the developer pointing to them and trying to mitigate and resolve this disputed issue. That's
But you can
why,
understand from our point of view, we know nothing about this company, only that Rob has hired them. And
Rob is, what
So-
company?
The landscaping company?
Landscaping company.
Yeah.
Not Beta.
Well,
I guess Beta is a third
Beta
party that
is an
over-
engineering company that observes work to be done on projects. With development projects.
So they'll have site inspectors there during the
Okay.
work to oversee the work.
I see. So you don't want the town to have their neck stuck out. They're doing that for you. I understand. that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
But,
Yep.
all right.
And will they be involving us with the schedule and when things are gonna be, work is gonna be performed and the sprinkler heads will be reserved and all that jazz? Will we be involved in that?
You will be, so on the list of those I had up before, I can reshare it. Yes, there'd be notice to you when the work would, that was part of the original scope outlined in the bullet points of when the work was to take place. The town, the sprinkler system is your own issue in terms of.
Yeah, we've
document?
experienced that already, thanks to
They
Rob.
haven't seen this?
No, it's right there.
Right.
What's that?
They've already experienced
They've already
that with Rob.
experienced that with, right.
Yeah, but Rob's already stiffed local
So there-
company.
So there has to be plans before the soil is put down on what to do with those
Well, the sprinklers are your responsibility. You're responsible for any fixtures in the
No.
easement.
No, Rob already paid, he said he was gonna pay for that, and he didn't, and
That was different. That was, so we're talking about this
That was
one.
Rob with one of his many lies, and so we won't do that again. We'll have to just deal with it ourselves, I guess.
Yes.
Yes, the sprinklers would be your responsibility.
so for all that to go back, even though Rob said he was gonna pay for all that to go back. So we need to be coordinated with this company closely, because now if we have to get our sprinkler system company in here to remove all those before soil is put on top of them.
I don't think you necessarily need to remove them. They're gonna have to do adjustments to the sprinkler. You can ask them first,
Well,
but
you're raising up the soil to fill, I mean, the company's gonna come in to raise up the soil to.
Right, so the sprinklers are gonna be raised, I mean, the soil's going roughly 6 inches at most. I think
we're just brokering
Well
a
there
deal.
that needs to be filled in, so.
We can't get into the
I think-
finer details
yeah.
of all of this.
Right.
We don't have
There's a
the time.
lot more than just loam. That's what I'm trying to say. It's an involved project with filling in and grading.
How we got into this mess in the first place.
there is loam and grading. In terms of the sprinkler aspect of it, it would be your response. Rob is not committing to do anything in terms of this.
He didn't fulfill his promise last time, so.
Okay, but wait a minute here. Rich, you're telling us that it's our responsibility. So if it's our responsibility, we need to be involved in the schedule of when this new dirt and fill is coming in to, put over the walkway. Because
So-
if we don't, let's say we're not home and all this work comes.
So we
and
need
you
to make
guys-
sure that they get a copy of the form that we see. The
they don't have
landscaper
this,
will
right?
fill out a right of entry form prior to performing the work with the Norfolk DPW department. So I think your liaison through that would be the DPW, which would be providing you when they're going to be on site.
And then the next one is landscape company shall provide 48-hour notice to the land use department.
So you see what's on, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
So can we make sure they get a copy of this?
Yep, we'll send it to them. Under,
I don't think 48 hours is enough time for our company to come in. When is this happening? Is there a date?
Well, we're hoping.
Nothing before the 13th.
Yeah, nothing would be before September 13th.
So that's 2
So-
weeks where you can call a sprinkler company,
you've
have
got-
them come out,
you-
assess the situation, and provide you something to move forward with when you have conversations with the landscaping company when they come out.
we can change in terms of the notice, but yeah, I think it makes sense to reach out to your irrigation company now to give them a sense of what the scope of work is, so they have an idea.
They could flag it, but they'll probably get buried, but they could offsets on all the sprinkler heads that are gonna be affected. Put stakes in the yard to relocate them.
So to recap that list,
Sounds like we're already on a pause to continue this on the 13th when.
Well, we're hoping to get a decision tonight on this, so that
so the written
we can.
decision, you could vote on the 13th.
So we'll just do the final vote on the 13th
Right,
for the
in
written
the
decision.
meantime,
Yeah.
they'll have time to be able to review all this and
Right.
get comfortable with it.
Right.
And if we have to amend the decision at that point, hopefully we can with a vote.
Be a
from there, in a revision, if we had time.
I would just open, prepare a draft decision. Any comments on it? That would be the advice, I suggest to you, so that way.
So, Mr. and Ms. Riley, how do you feel so far? You feel like we have a path forward?
I think we have to. I'm not thrilled about it. I feel like we got kind of blindsided with this list here, since we had gone over it in detail with Rich before. And
So I
know-
can, just to that point, I'm gonna pause, that's the list in terms of discussions with Rob, you'll have a chance to review it, so you're not really being blindsided. This is what I said in the beginning, to bring two parties together, try to create an amenable to restoration project.
I guess I would have liked to have seen it before tonight's meeting, though. That would have.
Yeah, so we're going to keep the meeting open until September 13th, at which point we'll have a draft decision prepared, which will all be ready to sign after we close the hearing. So you'll have 2 weeks from now to review this document and propose maybe a minor modification if required. Does that
Yeah,
work?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Elizabeth, anything?
Yes. No, thank you so much, gentlemen and members of the board.
And for the record, I would have liked to have it to you before, ahead of time as well, but the coordination between Mr. Kane, DPW, the chairman, myself, and it wasn't able to be done.
Yeah, this is the
So
first
all-
time the board's seeing it as well,
Correct.
so.
So there was an earnest effort to try to have this advanced to everybody. So the compromise is, or the solution to give you time is keep the hearing, look at it, and come back on the,
So motion to continue.
So, well, wait, is there any other comments from the audience? I can't see if there was any hands up besides the Rileys. We do have one comment here.
Just briefly, I
No.
7:30, because I think we should be able to get through that beta review on the fire station by then, so, okay. Do we have a second? Did we get a second from?
No.
Did we move the motion?
Somebody's going to move me first.
Oh, who's gonna?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
I'll leave you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, so it's unanimous. All right, public hearing is continued. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
All right,
Getting hungry.
so, I know.
Was that angry?
Oh, yeah.
Angry. All right, so new old business. Request to release Keeney Pond Road. You need to recuse yourself?
Get out of here.
You needed to get up and stretch it.
I'd rather not be at the next meeting.
wow.
Do we have any other participants on? I can't see any pictures on there. I don't.
There's 7 on right now.
Okay, there's 7.
Well,
Not for this
Like-
project?
not for,
No, I know. I
No,
was just
just
curious
me.
if there was anyone else still on
yes.
Zoom.
Oh,
Okay,
there
So
were.
thank
Tom
you.
DePlacio is on to
Yep.
talk about zoning.
Okay, so, Rich,
So Keeney Pond Road, acceptance plan to be endorsed by the planning board and the select board, which is kind of interesting because the town voted to accept Keeney Pond in 2010, the entire road. So I guess so I will say it's not too conventional to me that 12 years later, we have the acceptance plan for a portion of it, not the whole entire, it's the,
Yeah.
it's the remaining
the
portion.
remaining piece. So what the request tonight is really to release the money being held, which was for the ASBIL plan, so forth. And the road has already been accepted, so I don't see any reason not to release the remaining funds.
Okay.
Hopefully, when I talk to council, they don't have,
It's not,
something's come up in the last 12 years, say, well, wait a minute, hopefully there's no other,
okay.
the
Do we
cart-
generally have the as-built peer reviewed? Like, did Beta have any comments on this or anything?
No, DPW.
DPW did, okay.
Yeah,
They were the ones that reviewed my project from the start.
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, you would, well, typically, I guess, whatever that means, but
Well, it's conventional.
no.
Okay.
So, so anyway, my recommendation is to release the remaining money being held, because the road's already been accepted, so there's no, and we do have the plan, so,
Okay.
so there's no,
So we need a motion to release the bond.
built.
Endorse the
Road
as-built
acceptance plan.
for Keeney Pond Road.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
The next item on the agenda, I'm gonna go quickly through that,
Yep.
so.
Yep.
You do have the final plans for 262 Dedham Street to sign.
Yep.
So there.
I would just, if you'd like to make a motion, I hadn't had a chance to review them, so, if you wanna vote to endorse them, then you just come in when you're ready to sign them. Need to take a look at them before you sign them. I haven't had a chance to look at them, so.
Okay.
I don't really technically know if you really need a vote to endorse them, I'll just tell you they're okay to sign, but I haven't had a chance to review them for you to sign.
So then, why don't we wait until you can review them, make sure everything's good?
You
and then
probably
we'll
could do it
sign
on the 13th anyway. so-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that?
So
Let's do that.
let's just pass over.
Okay.
All right.
Meeting minutes. So we have two sets of meeting minutes, Eric.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for 7/12/22 and 7/19/22.
I think you gotta
Two
do them
motions.
separately.
Yeah.
You gotta be two motions.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for July 12th, 2022 as printed.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve meeting minutes from 7/19/2022.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Discuss potential street acceptances.
Yes, so.
So we have several.
Several. Two developments, essentially. Fox Run.
Yep.
I have it. I know the Beta was out observing the TV, the drain lines, where it was going.
No problems found based on the
They didn't
report.
find any problems. The one thing that they asked, because it's part of the agreement between the town and Fox Run, was, do they need to go review the videos? We have, but they were there right when there were videos, so they needed to watch the video again, which they were on site looking at.
If they were, I mean, they've already been watched.
Been watched. They just haven't watched the video of what they were
Right,
watching.
they watched it live while the video was being taken.
Correct.
Right, but they have not watched the video.
You mean the people of Fox Run?
No, Beta.
Group.
So,
Oh,
no.
I'm like, I don't
No.
think we need to
So
do that.
part of the deal with Pulte Homes was that Beta was gonna review the videos to make sure there weren't any deficiencies in Pseudoform. But Beta was there on site during the video recording, so they actually
Gotcha.
saw it live
Yeah.
while it was being recorded. So it's like, do they really need to go back again and watch all the videos?
Mm-hmm.
I personally would say
Probably.
yes.
Really?
Yes, because the monitor that they're utilizing on site's only gonna be about this big versus the monitor that they're gonna be using to watch it is gonna be much larger. And based on how I've seen construction sites operate, typically there's a couple of individuals having a chat every once in a while. The person's gonna look over here, they might not see something, like, I think a person needs to sit down, watch the footage, and go from start to the end.
It looked like there were 15 or 20 videos and they're 2 minutes apiece.
Right, it's not gonna take a long amount of time, it made
Right.
sense.
I'll
It's
let them
just-
know.
It's more
If they do-
CYA.
I'll let Phil know, because they haven't prepared the letter of their work to you. All right, fair enough, that's easy enough.
I'm indifferent to it. I mean, that's fine.
It's just better.
I think Chris swayed me.
Hey, look,
No,
that-
because I understand the monitor point of
Right.
view.
The
No, yeah,
monitor's
no,
this
that's a good
big. I
point.
mean, they're not
That's a good-
sending a nice big monitor like what we have in front of us, and
And
you
the
know,
lighting is probably bright out there,
Exactly.
so it's
It's-
harder to see those minute little.
and they might know
fractured
which time
hairline
for
fractures.
somebody to like cough and
Okay.
distract the
That's fine.
person. So he looks over his shoulder. What was that noise?
That's
A little
fine.
rustling in the woods, maybe a coyote. I don't know.
That's fine.
There's
Okay,
been-
I
there's
got
been
it.
coyotes
Good.
in the area, so don't
Good.
show.
Let's
What's the next one?
What's
That's great.
Trust but verify. Always.
Good,
So am I.
we're moving on. All
So
right.
in terms of lining up, the streets are being referred to the planning board as recommendation from town meeting to accept it. So we'll get a recommendation from Beta as well as DPW, because DPW is involved with Redwood Circle.
Yep.
The tentative plan is to ask for the planning board's vote October 11th, because we don't need to change October now, is the October meeting.
Correct.
And then the select board would hold their meeting on recommended for acceptance in October. So there's a little bit of time, so I'll be back. in terms of asking for this, but just as- in
Mhm.
terms of the sequence of it, so.
Okay.
Make sure that everything's in order. All right. And then jumping down to the next item, which is,
Sorry, Rich, just one minor item. So in the beta report that they sent out, they have Warren Drive listed as Warren Street.
yeah, that's,
Wanna just-
it's been corrected on the town side, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's sliding down on the agenda item is the zoning articles. Really, the ones I want to talk about tonight, for the most part, is, well, there is a, do we have a letter? I didn't see the letter in the share drive from Mr. DePlacido.
I believe it is.
I didn't see it in there. So he's on the line. He wanted to talk about potential zoning change to the C4 zone.
That's the height one?
No, it's, well,
C4 off highway?
it's River's Edge. Condominium.
Pull it up.
All right, so that's one, so I want to have him speak to that, in terms of the thought behind it, the intent, and essentially he's asking to see if the planning board would give consideration to a sponsor as opposed to, going by petition to town meeting in November. Town council is taking a look at the zoning things that they're in the C drive, well, the shared drive for the table of allowable uses. So what we would want you to do is be prepared and comfortable for September 13th meeting to make a recommendation to sponsor them. The warrant closes on the 19th, so you have a little bit of time.
It looked like there were two files in there.
Yeah.
What are the differences, or
Two
the one that's,
Yeah, they both look very like
There
the
was
same.
yeah, there is 2 files for zoning use tables on the shared drive. Two Word documents.
Yep.
And both were attached in the email as well when you sent them.
Yeah.
they have different file names?
Yeah, let me ask Bob to see what the difference is between the two dates, for the 3rd and the 1st.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
right.
maintain the concern that we use a mixture of yes, no, special permit, and then blanks in that
Hey,
table.
He was gonna, yeah, I thought he was gonna fill all the blanks in. I thought because, right, we talked about that, is like every single cell should be filled.
Yeah,
That's
to
right.
avoid confusion, yeah. we-
To avoid, because
All right.
why do you specifically call it no in some and blank in others? Does blank,
I can,
Does blank
I'll
mean
let
no,
him
or
know
does-
tomorrow
Yeah.
about that.
right,
Sure, okay. I agree, I think it makes sense, right? So
right,
create reader confusion.
correct.
So that would be for September 13th. And then the zoning amendment, we'll take a look at it for the B1 outer.
And that's not on our shared drive. The B1, wait.
No, the
The
B1
B1 is, but
on
not
the
the,
page.
you were talking about,
The
Yeah, so
C4
Betsy
was-
has it
Yeah,
on
set it
the,
up here, I guess I didn't do the G drive, sorry about that.
the viewers at home can't see it unless they. Right?
You have Tommy come and explain that to us?
Let me see
He's
if I
here.
can-
Yep.
Let me
Oh,
see
he's
if I
here.
can
He's
cite that.
virtually with you.
so Betsy's gonna try and share that
Let me see
for
if I
those
can
of you
put
on
that in
Zoom.
the, Google
the town hall. And right now, and that's, the way that's built is with commercial and business on the first floor, and then apartments, residential uses on the second and third floor. And right now, I would not be able to do that. While we could actually build separate residential units on the property and, excuse me, and separate business buildings, you can't mix the two. So what this proposal is just so that I could actually have a mixed-use building that would actually have residential units on the second or third floor and businesses on the first floor. And what that would hopefully do is allow me to build out the last section of the village at River's Edge, which has been sitting vacant for about 10 years. So I'd really like to complete it, finish it up. It would bring some tax revenue to the home. Building inspector, and the building inspector actually cited this this language, which actually was in the B1 zoning district. We basically copied that so that what's allowed there could be allowed here. And, that's what I've posed to the board tonight. The only other thing was just to once again, 18 years. Also reached to Sue Jacobson to see, if there was any thoughts, because, just by the current zoning and everything, we'd have to have affordable residential units in here, so this would help out the town of Norfolk's needs for that. And
Requirement for number of affordable, that number of units.
Depends. How many units do you think potentially you could yield?
you talking to me, Rich?
Yeah, sorry.
Haven't gone that far. I'm guessing, 12 to 16 in a building, maybe.
So it's like
But don't forget there'd be
15.
commercial on the first floor.
15%, so, it depends what the number is.
Right. Could be two.
Could be one.
Could be one.
Could be two.
Right.
Did you want to keep the use table, Tommy, the same as in the inner B1 district?
For that particular use, yes, for that one that I'm proposing to add a third bullet to K7A.
I heard the residents wanted to add a use of a tattoo parlor. Is that true?
No, not so far, not in this
It was
district.
tattooing and piercing.
And piercing, yeah. I was-
Yeah.
I got one here.
And so the board's aware, actually, we own and manage the building that's have become longtime taxes in the town of Norfolk with the multiple properties we have, so do something tasteful.
That's really good to hear. So C4 district, where else, if we make this change to the C4 district, where else does that impact it?
Just
Or is it
River-
just isolated to this spot?
Just River's Edge.
Okay.
Just River's Edge.
Just making sure, okay.
Yeah. So you can, if you know how you feel tonight, fine. If not, you can noodle on it and then, decide for the 13th. But essentially, he's asking for your sponsorship of this article.
Yeah.
I like the idea. If I look at, try to put my outsider hat on looking in, this kind of looks like special pleading for one use case, right? Which, generally you try to avoid, unless I'm reading this wrong. Is there a way we can apply this to, or is there reason to apply this to other C zones, right? We really only have two of them.
Or is there a reason not to apply this at all? I mean, it comes up like a worms as, time goes on to allow
This
that
is sort of
mixed-use
like
housing
Southwood,
at that
which
location.
has its own district.
Right.
So this wouldn't even be spot zoning because it's all within this same zone, which is one. I for one, think that 10 years sitting there with no tax revenue is a total waste. And the
Agreed.
project is outstanding, and if it looks like Union Street,
18 Union's
what a win
good.
for the
We
town.
need more of that,
I mean,
yeah.
what can I say?
It
But
doesn't.
yeah, maybe we can look in other districts, like the C's on and off highway, and see if some of this could be added after this next town meeting.
Wasn't there some request from,
Yeah, there was.
the
Yeah,
Dunkin'
yeah.
Donut Gulf Station?
There was.
Right.
I don't remember all the details off my top of my head, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah, they
we
wanted to mimic what's in the C1D, which is essentially of that Valley Street area.
Yes.
To to the other C1 districts.
Right.
So I think this would be a good start anyway.
And going-
I agree.
Empty
I think-
land, we have enough empty land laying around. So I would be for it.
Comparison to it, this is age restricted, that's not age restricted.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So the district is age restricted or just the
Here,
properties?
here
Well,
is the
this
C4.
one is, yeah.
The
This is
C4
all
is
age
age
restricted, yeah.
So that plays into the affordable housing piece as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have to be age restricted, so.
So how's the rest? Melissa, what's your thoughts?
I love what Mr. DePlacido did on Union Street and River's Edge area. Something tasteful, if it's gonna add to our affordable housing.
It's gonna add to a
Use.
tax, affordable housing, I mean, yeah.
I don't see a reason not to do it personally.
Okay.
My only concern is with the densification of that area going forward. We wanted to try and target densification around the center of town due to, you know, the proximity to the train and everything. You're not getting proximity to the train or anything
No.
over there.
For what?
It does kind of,
For affordables, you mean?
no, just
No,
from the
just
look and
in
feel
general?
of the town and keeping that small town aesthetic. You know, if we start popping mixed-use buildings over there and condos, it becomes more of a downtown over there. And, you know, it's a self-sufficient kind of a downtown already almost with the, you know, the types of stores that they have down there already.
Don't forget, we can do that on 1A.
Right, but 1A is much more suitable from a pathway perspective. Like, you know, that's a state highway as opposed to, you know, a town roadway.
This is the whole village here
Yeah.
contained by itself.
I mean, you can,
I think the downtown will finally happen once we get this, once we
Yeah,
get
it's
the
all dependent-
sanitary sewer in there.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, once we
for
get the
sure.
sewer and all that stuff taken care of.
So-
I mean,
I
I
just
think
don't wanna
it's
take
tough
away
to
from
s-
it.
I don't, but I mean, this is already land that he owns that's
Right.
waiting, you know?
And I'm not denying the work that he's done has been amazing. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, it's beautiful,
Yeah.
but also having more mixed use around, I think would be great, not a 150-person
it
restaurant.
just feels
perhaps.
misplaced.
It does, but he already owns the land, and I think
Right.
the biggest issue that we have downtown is the septic, and once we have that,
Yeah, there's already retail at Rivers Edge.
There's a lot of retail there,
So-
exactly, yeah. You know, there are so many people in this field that you don't want in your town. And you get someone like this guy coming forward to build something, you invite him in and you help him out. I mean, that's just the way it is.
No, I hear
Because
you.
you don't
I
get
hear
many,
you.
let me tell you, you don't
Yeah.
get many.
Right.
How do you feel about this, John?
You can probably tell, right? There aren't many
well,
people in
think
this
about
field
some of the
that are-
buildings that we could see, and we see them in
Right,
other towns.
absolutely,
yeah.
You know, so I think that's where I'm coming from. People really want that kind of
Would-
village
would it-
look, and he clearly delivers.
Would any,
Whole process, pretty much.
No, that would be a major
it'd
modification.
be a modification to the previous.
First, he'd have to go through the town zoning and get it approved.
Yeah.
And then he'd have to go through a major modification
Okay.
for his site.
Okay.
So it sounds like we're all in agreement. It's something we would endorse. So
Gary's
so how do
stringing
we
me
move
along.
forward with this?
If you're okay sponsored, then we'll just convert it to an article that's sponsored by the planning board to submit to the select board office.
Okay,
That's
and
all.
yep, that's fine. We got
As
to
part of the.
we got to the 19th. Warrant closes on the 19th, so.
Yeah. So I would put it, we'll change, well, we'll put in article form.
There's no
Check
interest there or
your
anything
job.
like that.
No.
Okay.
No,
We
it-
bring it through all the different boards for approval. It doesn't just show up as a petition because they,
in many cases, you probably want to advocate to go that route, so it's not petition, because you
They
gotta
do.
do things, you know,
Yeah.
so,
the advisory board suggests.
right, so.
Well, we've had requests like this that end up as a petition and just get shot down because we don't
Well,
want to set
once-
that
right,
precedent.
Exactly. Once they
Right.
see you haven't gone through all the process, planning board,
Yep.
advisory board, select person, they shut it down.
Yep.
At town meeting.
It's not gone well, and so, when they do petitions.
I just want to make sure it's above the line.
You could,
You'll
Good.
be able to sleep at night.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I ask. Tell my kids that.
and non-zoning related, you,
Rather
yeah.
kids.
My wife picked them up.
Okay, so nothing to vote on tonight. Rich is
No,
gonna draft
so
it
I'll
up.
put it
You're not
in-
babysitting,
Well,
John.
And so,
Tom, does that work for you? You want to come back on the 13th?
That does, and if there's any questions that come up, please forward them to me, Rich, and I'd be happy to
Yeah.
answer them. And what was the next week? Is it the 13th, September 13th?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and have a good rest of the evening. It looks like you're going to be here for a little bit. So,
Thank you.
I feel
Thank you,
for you. Thanks.
right,
I'm hoping not, but.
I hope not. I think Rich is gonna do a quick updates.
Yeah, no, it'll be quick. It'll be, all right.
I got a
Exactly.
Yeah. One person needs to
All right,
come
so you see it over there.
Yeah, we
I'll
see it.
pull it up
There we go.
there.
Oh.
I see
All
it.
right,
You got both, but pretty, so I gave you that rudimentary diagram of what the zoning change proposal would be to add extend the B1 outer to the church property. There's the, so Barry graciously through DPW.
Our microphone issue is back.
Uh-oh.
The microphone keeps
clicks every
flipping
3
every
minutes.
so often.
Wow.
You got like a Bluetooth device that might be connecting and disconnecting or anything?
It's probably just the connifler pin got switched and the phalange's broken. Once they figure that out, it's gonna.
Once you change the flux capacitor though, you should be good.
Why don't we go back to the regular
Oh, we
meetings
go.
like
We
years
have
ago,
back
you know,
to
with the
the
papers in front of us and. get
It's
rid
the
of that screen?
Kaspersky's. Once they're in the
Yeah.
system, you can't.
Trying
get
to
them out.
save trees, John.
Yeah, right.
Is it working? I
Yep.
hope. Before you, that little green rectangle is what I proposed to the board to consider to extend the B1 district, which would then, if that is enacted by town meeting, eliminates the whole buffer screening requirement adjacent to the Federated Church.
We need a really succinct way to explain this, by the way. Like,
Yes.
like a very clear, simple way to explain this.
Well, that's why I would ask you to think about how you feel.
Yeah, how you gonna
How you
present
would-
it? How you gonna
Yes.
present it?
It doesn't have to be you. it
Because
could
we're
be
gonna
anyone
have,
else,
so
play
one
by
of
that.
us, me or any of us, has to present this, explain it.
You can give a proposal to us and we can evaluate it and we can make comments and.
Sure.
Test run.
I can do a PowerPoint presentation.
Well, I was going to
I'm
say
not
we
thinking
can
that far,
record
but-
you talking about it.
That's
and then
what we
putting it
did
up
for
on the
B1.
town website. Yeah.
We recorded everybody talking about their support
Oh,
and
yeah.
the various
That's
things.
right, I remember that.
Yeah,
I
and then
remember.
we put that out to
Right.
Well, we could
YouTube's.
do something along those lines. You could do a pre-recorded thing.
Anyway, it's more than just
I hear
this,
ya.
but you know, for this one, you know, I think it's clear why this needs to exist. It eliminates a lot of hurdles for us. You know, there's enough hurdles in existence to get the fire department out the door if it, you know, if the town votes it that way.
Correct.
I mean,
This
I
is just
look at
easy.
it as, this is a site distance issue.
Yes.
And by doing this, it solves the requirement for the landscape buffer, and the site distance issue is not an issue anymore.
It's probably the best way to explain it.
I mean,
Will there
Go
be
ahead.
any buffer at all? Not by the street. I know that that's the.
To the back of the site. so-
It'll be towards the back of the site, there will still be a buffer, yeah. It's just from the base, correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, it's kind of from the front of the building all the way to the street, there would be no landscape.
Would it help to get support from the church to say,
Absolutely.
you know,
Sure.
thumbs up,
Yeah,
thumbs down,
yes,
is it a butter?
yes.
Okay,
Oh,
so
you need them.
yeah, we can do that.
So tonight, it's just a matter of you wanted to see something that was a little bit better to understand.
Right.
Next step, I'll send it out to the church to have them take, and they can weigh in. So I'm not asking for anything tonight out of you, but beyond just, I think it looks more
So I think
understandable.
it could be explained that, look, this is a requirement right now, is to have this landscape buffer in here. And that because of that, the cause and effect is it causes a site distance issue with fire trucks leaving the station.
Yep.
And so we need to find a way to eliminate that issue. And to do that, this is your solution.
And so originally we were looking at possibly rezoning the entire parcel of the church because they can exist on either.
Way ago.
Yeah,
though.
that was years
Yeah.
ago.
So we've decided to
Yeah.
go away from that. This is a better
Yeah.
option, just a
Yep.
little sliver.
Yes, because the church, in that version, they had reluctance because in the event, if finances weren't great for the church, it's a residential zone that gets on, Union Street, they might be able to carve out a piece of property for a residential home or something like that to offset from a dollars and cents standpoint.
Wow.
So they wanted to be able to preserve that. It really wasn't, because the church can go anywhere.
Right,
To
that's
this
why, yeah.
district. It was that just to safeguard themselves, financial security if necessary, hopefully not the case.
Can you
Yeah, no, I
explain
get
it easier
that.
if it was a smaller patch just in the area where we're trying to eliminate the landscape buffer? Just the northern portion of it?
I thought the last time we had a conversation about this, I believe it was the architect, or maybe it was a landscape architect, that was here in the room with us, who proposed maybe some grasses in the front.
Oh, bioretention.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So just to, yeah, if you want to, we could go, I don't know if you want to do it
We were asking
tonight,
for
but just go
pictures.
back to, so there is landscaping, it's just that we're not, it will not be evergreen, so literally a
Screening.
vegetative screen barrier. So there's still landscape between the property line, it's just the fact that the requirement of having 2 rows offset of evergreens, 6 feet tall, along that whole entire common property boundary isn't needed. That's really the,
Oh, well, I mean, I
There's
feel
a
like you could
planting-
just explain it that way. and
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
would
there
get
you
it.
go.
You know, there's
Right.
still
Yeah.
gonna, because the way that, when we were just talking about it initially, I was like, wait, it's just gonna be like, you know, parking lot to parking lot, because that's not very attractive at all. But if you're
Right.
gonna have something, obviously sightline issues.
Would it be
Um,
possible to get the architect to provide 3D renderings of what it would look like with the evergreens and with the proposed landscaping?
I don't see why not.
I think that would, you know,
Yeah.
visuals go a long way to
Yeah.
provide that. I know, Betsy, you sent out the planting schedule in that last email about the fire
Yeah.
department.
Showing a landscape so you can see.
We added to the, I thought they were still showing.
There's
that.
it,
They're
but
I
still
they
think
gonna
they're
do it.
still gonna do it, that's what's
Just
shown
not
on the
in
plans.
in the
But it's
basement.
not required.
Right.
It won't be required.
It won't be required.
Can you go
We
back to
still
that
haven't got a
plan?
rendering of the bio
The,
areas.
which one, their site plan, you mean?
Still waiting for a turn for Camger, but before we get that, sorry.
They said they made a sketch for that, but we didn't see it.
What?
We never got it.
What, for the trash?
No.
Camger, I asked for their auto turn, for the truck movements in the back. And, because I was really
Yeah, so
concerned
they're still
about.
doing that.
Wasn't worth it.
Chad, see, they're still doing
Yeah.
all the trees on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
right.
it's just that
So
portion
from
where
the,
the
right,
driveway-
from the front of
So
the
that's why I said if
building,
you didn't show all of that as green, you just show the
Right.
portion you need, where
So
you're
I-
not planting.
So there's still, right, so there's still,
Well, that's not what that's what they were proposing when they were trying to work around the easement area. They were proposing trees there. So if all of this land changes to no requirements for buffer, then they'll be modifying the adjoining properties, I'm sure, with a different landscape.
Yeah, they
plan.
probably won't be putting the trees in, especially at that
No,
cost.
no, they won't.
Yeah.
but they
so-
should, but they
Well,
should
the
still
church
put
might
something in. To
want
Melissa's
that.
point, if we don't want them to do nothing,
Right.
that would look horrible. So they
So
still need to do something. Like
We need
the-
to confirm with them, if they get that easement, or not easement, but that buffer zone, what it would end up looking like in a final state. Like, if they decide not to put in trees, fine, but we have to represent that, because we can't go in there with a plan showing that, you know, they're putting
Oh,
trees
yeah,
up to a
yeah.
certain
Yep.
point, and then
all right,
not
I'll
do
reach
it.
out to Ron and say, okay, if that passes today, what are you doing landscape-wise to
Right.
do something
Right.
that's a little bit better than what's there today?
And please give us an
Why don't you get
elevation
a
as if you were
rendering
standing in the
before we,
driveway.
Yeah, right.
Before we endorse it, get a rendering of what it's gonna look like.
Yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
at town meeting, we're gonna need that drawing that shows that sliver. We're gonna need a site plan like that, and then a rendering.
Right.
Yeah.
We need three things.
And a
Also
rendering
ask
that makes
for
it
a rendering
clear
of the
that
front
the
of the-
site issues.
With the-
Like the-
Right, you
Yeah.
need to show, like, if we did do the trees as stated in the
Right.
bylaws, it would look like this, and you could
Right,
see
but
the
where is it?
impediment.
Oh, so you want like a, oh, I see, so you
We
want,
asked
so you
for
want
a
two, do you want two renderings?
Elevation
One
for
with,
rendering.
One with,
Okay.
one without.
Fire
That
station
would be
with the
helpful, just because it's a
bioretention.
lot easier to illustrate.
yeah,
plan.
totally agree.
Here's our
Planted.
main
What they're gonna do
concern.
is
Right.
they're gonna mow that every few
So
weeks.
here's how to get around
So
it.
Rich-
It's
Yeah,
gonna become
for
just
safety
weeds or
reasons.
pine saplings or
What,
that.
what we were talking about over here is, we need the site plan, like,
They're gonna
if
wish
this
they
doesn't
stayed.
pass, we need the site plan showing all those trees. And then we need a rendering showing all those trees and how we have a site distance problem.
Yeah.
So here's the problem.
So we don't, but that's the easy way to get this.
Nothing else by the process is.
Ask for
You'll find-
everything.
Okay, this is the bare minimum.
Yep.
So if you don't ask, you're not gonna get it.
Right.
Okay.
It would make sense to ask in terms of providing some.
Rendering to show.
A rendering, but
Rather
also
than
some
pine trees
improvement
going there.
aesthetically over there. It's
Yeah.
not,
Because that's all you're gonna see is this massive building coming around that roundabout going down.
okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, you ask about that other plan that we were asking about?
sizes, they never put.
know.
Okay,
They never do that.
It's not
It's
because.
really annoying.
Right, there's a reason. That bioretention area is over 15,000 feet. That's big. So I talked with the DPW, went down there, looked at their rain garden by the salt shed and all. Honest with you, right, which is why my suggestion to Rich and years ago, every public hearing we had, we did a site visit. You really can't understand the site, and what's involved without a site visit. Upon coming, you just miss a lot. When you see what we made them do for the salt shed, right, in the existing conditions, I personally think we're really over. They are with stormwater, they're to take, the plantings that go in these retention areas, right, really don't matter. If you think you're gonna get color, you're not. What they're gonna do is mow that on a, whatever, monthly basis, only to stop the white pine trees, which will just forest everything, as we know, right? Cut down before they can grow too fast. So that will be cut off, sorted weeds or things, right? That's what you're gonna have, and it's 15,000 feet. That's small.
Yeah, that was my concern when they talked about the plants that they wanted to put there last time, was that it's weeds. You know, we have them in my neighborhood, and I get, being on the HOA, I get emails asking when we're gonna mow it.
Melissa,
So-
you know, you get cynical, they can use any euphemism they want, without water, the growth of the ragweed, all of the other things like that, the pine, you can't stop it. You can never have, I had detention basins with the most beautiful wildflower beds, acres you ever saw. With birdhouses, I had the works. I put in fruit trees. Right now, they are pine forests that you cannot walk through. What you'll have there, there's no color in it, and that's why I was sort of upset at what it's gonna look like in our center. It's gonna be just mowed flat. Whatever the weed is, it'll be cut off on a regular basis. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna get.
You know what is nice, though, is just the regular, I'm trying to think of the name of them, but I have them all over my yard, and the reason that I have them is because I can't kill them, it's impossible, and I'm terrible with plants, but they're just, you know, the
Goldenrod?
grass plants that you typically around pools, and it's just long grass that kind of like fountains out, is that what it's called?
Yeah, they're perennial grasses.
That's not a
What?
ragweed.
My kids call them car washes.
Car washes.
Yeah, they're perennial grasses, and they are very nice.
And
some of
it's
them get
almost
big,
impossible to
right,
kill.
And they die every year, and then they come back in the
That's,
spring.
yeah, that's the
And
only
they can
thing.
be invasive too, but, right, they're maintaining goals, to keep them in control is just to mow that regularly. So,
Mhm.
Noted.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, 65. Yeah. So just to get a little feel for what we're talking about.
And then the DPW's got their rain garden. I don't think it's done.
It's not
Not done.
done yet.
It's not done,
It's
but that,
big.
but it's,
We should do a site visit.
we should definitely do a site visit to, or do your own visit to
unfortunately,
see
to
it.
put up
Either
your
way.
sound barrier, right, the density there is substantial. To put up the site barrier, right, and then put trees in front of it, you're taking down a massive amount of healthy oak and maples. That's the shame of it. So that project, by doing that, is probably gonna cost, from their estimates, an extra $50,000 compared to a $50,000 total cost for the shed. And again, it's really hard to tell on paper, right? When you go out and visually see it and the surroundings, where you can see that really, this is no interruption to any abutter. It is thick woods there, you know, it's just not in the way at all. But the rain garden's all prepped. Rain garden's a lot of work to do it right.
Yeah. Okay.
Slide down. I think we covered the zoning, now we're town plan updates. You do have the draft regulations in the share drive.
Yep.
That town council mentioned, update with the plan is to do that for the October 11th meeting. So that's the
Version where it's just what the differences are, right? Because that's 140 something pages.
148.
We asked.
Right, we did ask.
Yeah, you did try, you did ask. But I also can ask them in terms of, I think he was gonna try to see if he could do something though.
Somebody said something like that, but there were no
Town council
guarantees.
said they were gonna
Yeah.
try and do something.
Right, so I'll put it back to them, see what they can
Okay.
do to
Okay.
see what we do there. But that would be upcoming in terms of October.
I mean, it might just be so, it might be impossible. It's so
Right. Yeah,
But if
complicated.
you're
enough.
updating a document, right, so, I don't know that this is their process, but if you're updating a document, before you copy and paste it, you would do it all in that same document. You would
Yes.
redline it. So it has to be somewhere.
Yes, I would hope, right?
Right.
Or even
Yeah.
if you take the, I don't know, take the original, export the new one, do a comparison. Gotta be close to, I don't know, I'm probably, I don't know anything about this. I'm just thinking like, hey, Microsoft Word, like, here's the difference.
Oh, yeah.
Right, right.
Use Beyond.
Borings, I don't have the report yet from the hydrogeologist, so hopefully we'll have something for the 13th of September.
Are they coming back to present those?
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully I have something of substance for you on the 13th. I'll get a better schedule on that. In terms of master plan, it's out and it is out. Due date September 19th. People are requesting it. Can't say that we've got a ton of requests in so far. I can't remember. I'll give you a number next, but hopefully we get a response back.
When was the question answer period on that?
These are expired.
Okay. None came in?
No, there wasn't any questions.
It's not promising.
Not at all. Take two.
Yeah.
Raise the price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question answer or the final responses?
Well, I'm going by the question answer at this point, because typically there's always a clarifying question.
Or maybe it was just so well written and it was, reviewed by all of us.
I personally have never written an RFP that's the case, unfortunately. So I'm going based on my experience.
That you could use some work.
Absolutely. Always.
Well, this thing is so fantastic. It didn't need any questions. I don't know, but
I'm not, I don't know by that, but nothing's that perfect. I mean, I think it was good, but
Chad's
nothing's
Rich's
that
ears.
perfect.
I love it.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
No, I'm-
So hopefully by
think it was
9th
good, but-
yeah, hopefully 19th we get a response back. But let me double check through the RFP. I feel like the questions is let me get back to you on the question period. It might still be open because it was only last week it was out for the 24th of August, so it might be the beginning of September.
Okay.
It might be on that. I'm coming up
You're
against.
perking me up again. I'm
You're
loving
gonna
this.
submit?
I'm going to submit a question, yeah. You want to go on? Do you want to do halves on this with me?
Oh, wait a minute.
If we could focus and get serious, we could do that
Okay.
at
Okay,
10.
we'll get
And I
back
think
to-
the air's been
we
off
can-
for an hour and a half.
I know, we got to request AC after 8 o'clock. I don't know what happened.
Okay. So in terms of Southwood update, Josh was on vacation. He did compile the survey results from the open, so
Okay.
I'll get back and have a better idea in terms of the
Anything material in that? I haven't gone.
yes. There is, I can't tell you off the top of my head what was material in there, but it was.
Is that in our folder?
It was an email.
No,
Oh, it was email.
It was an
Yeah.
email.
They CC'd the board on it.
Yeah. I'm gonna confess that I haven't gone through enough, but. Just to clarify, so it is, the planning board is select board scheduled for September 14th. The, regulations, or I'd probably say guidelines for housing choice for MBTA communities was released last week. There's a webinar next week. So I'll learn a little bit more, but there are guidance to document. So there is a requirement as it relates to inclusionary zoning that it appears to me that our zoning exceeds the requirement. So we'd be out of compliance with housing choice. But there's a workshop next week.
So exceeds them negatively.
Huh?
Exceeds them negatively, as in we'd
Yeah.
have to.
So the fact that we're up at 20%, so in the draft guidance document, it says for towns that have adopted inclusionary bylaw with 20% or more prior to the housing choice, they're okay. Ones after that, they're not. So I just want to clarify that point, because housing choice was enacted in January of 2021. Our bylaw was adopted by petition in May of 2021.
Right.
So that might be, so we may need to revisit it in terms of that. So I want to, up at the webinar next week, I'll report back to you, because you're going to have to make a recommendation on the housing production plan. I mean, there was a recommendation to look at it in general.
Right.
But this would add potentially to it that there's even a higher reason to look, to revisit that requirement.
Get what?
Lower.
What's the threshold?
I don't know how low, that's what I gotta find out.
Is it because that after X amount of units, it's 20% now? That new law that we passed?
Yeah.
Correct.
15%.
We didn't pass it.
No, it's super.
I think it was that's where I think the time.
Here at housing,
Oh, yeah.
what percent is that state requirement?
They require 0.
Zero.
What's the sorry.
They require no
Somebody different
affordable.
department's not talking
That
to each other.
statute is about housing production, not about affordable housing. Affordable housing is it's part of housing, but there's not a.
Somewhere else.
So they're letting you, they're making you create these zones with no affordable units required. So it's up to the town to put in affordable units.
Yeah.
Kind of backwards, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I thought they wanted affordable
What?
housing.
They are for affordable housing. Housing
Yeah.
supply, so it's kind of.
That was a supply concern.
Yeah, that
but
was a
that's weird because it was. Yeah, all right. It's probably very clear if I reread it, but I feel like the conversation we're having when it was first being discussed was more about affordability. But yeah, okay.
Well, we intertwined in the conversation I think at the town, but it wasn't necessarily at the state level in terms of housing choice bill.
You know, for Section 8, which is federal low-income housing, for Section 8, these apartment buildings that cannot rent. Bedrooms, 2 other rooms, 4 rooms, 1,000 square feet, and you get from the federal government as a Section 8 housing, $2,100 a month, check deposit, which is actually more than like Tommy's building here. That's more than he's charging just flat. So the need for.
We should create a co-op that builds these things.
Well, it makes somebody with a big project incentive to say, hey, if I can't get mine, I can just make it all low-income housing and just get a check every month. And so the housing, point being that the rental costs are really going up and up and up. And this is before all this latest rental increases because of the pandemic that talk about rent prices going up so high. This is all before that. So they'll probably adjust that number too.
We just need density within a 5-minute walking distance of center of town so that, people can get their damn grocery store and stop asking for a grocery store.
That's been going on like 25 years.
It's a joke.
I'm gone and you're gonna be my age, and they'll still be talking about that.
And that lot will
I
still
hope
be
not.
empty.
I hope we get there.
Eventually Novardo's about it.
In my lifetime, I hope we do get a grocery store downtown.
I have talked to the CEO of Stop and Shop, of Roach Brothers, especially right after Brothers went in Medfield. And basically, with the traffic our town has, they don't want, we talked years ago where Four Kicks was about putting a shopping area in there. And I had a couple of people that I know that were looking to develop something, a good spot right near the highway. Right? So they did Bertucci's, because they figured, well, Bertucci's is popular, we're gonna get a Bertucci's in there. So they contact Bertucci's, and their real estate executive calls us back, and the question to the Bertucci's guy was, do we have enough of your restaurants in town? And he said, well, actually, no. And they said, well, what do you consider low minimum required density? And they said Framingham.
Oh.
That's what they consider a small area. Never, just shocked.
No.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Our best chance is to get local mom and pop stores.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna get.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not, right.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so, but I reserved, I got, just kind of clarify some of these points, it came out last week.
Okay.
The webinar next week, too, so.
Okay.
So we'll have an update at our next meeting.
We might go to 10 o'clock next week, too. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind going as long as it was like 78 in here. Rather than.
Right.
Yeah.
Since I came here tonight.
To Matt. All right,
Anyway,
so in terms of, I think I've covered the.
Any other updates, Rich?
I can't think of the top of my head.
All right. So I did have had a conflict on October 11th, but my schedule plans have changed, so we had talked about moving the meeting to the 12th on Wednesday, but we can resume on the 11th. If everybody's good with that.
11th works.
October 11th.
Yep.
Okay, so we got the 13th, which is in 2 weeks. We got the 11th for October, and then November 7th, which is,
Put that out there because the election is on Tuesday, the
Right.
8th.
right.
And the following Tuesday is town meeting.
And town meeting is the 15th, the following.
Right.
So, you guys good with Monday, the 7th?
That's fine.
All right. Good, I think that's
And town meeting's November 15th, right?
November 15th, yes.
And December 13th.
So that kind of covers it for this evening.
Yep. Any other new business? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Passes. We are done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Abstained.
It is really